Oh, it went straight to you this time. Well, I'm back from a little vacation. Went out west, Western Canada, to Alberta, which I do kind of see as its own country at this point. Although it's not, but it may as well be. Also went to Vancouver. That was pretty interesting, but I am back and we are back on the grind here, doing the podcast again, the Brave podcast. And normally you guys find me on YouTube exploring with Angelo, out hunting ghosts, going to strange places, doing this thing called Randonautica and all sorts of crazy stuff. But tonight we're going to be talking about some different stuff. First, let me introduce my fantastic co-host, Moshi.
Thank you for calling me fantastic. That's very
You're
kind
welcome.
of you. I'd like to be fantastic. Hi, I'm Moshi Mohammed on YouTube. I'm Moshi on Instagram. And I want to remind you that, hey, we're on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, what's it called? Apple Podcasts.
Mm-hmm.
And so once you finish this episode, if you could give it a rating, I think it's rated out of 5 stars, I believe, on Apple Podcasts.
Is it?
Yeah,
I don't know
hit us
how it
up with
works.
like a 5, or if you don't like the shirt I'm wearing, maybe a 4, but you know, please 5
Mhm.
stars, please. Tonight, I like to introduce a friend of ours. His name is Kojo. He's known everywhere as Scotty IV, Scotty 4 Eyes. He's a man, a legend in the Toronto music industry. And I kind of grew up with him. And he's a really, really cool guy. Really, really very inspirational dude. And let's just get right into it, man. Hey, Kojo, welcome.
I am super, super humbled that I'm considered a Toronto legend or Brampton legend.
Brampton legend.
And yeah, it's been a pleasure to grow up with you, kind of grow up with you. I think that's what you said.
Me too.
But yeah, no, I'm really happy to be here. This is important for me because this is like a hometown vibe. You know what I mean? This is taking us all the way back to high school. So yeah, glad to be here.
Thank you for coming, man.
Yeah, definitely appreciate you coming through. Yeah, so I guess first things first. So you guys went to school together, right? That's how you two met?
Yeah. North Park
High
Secondary School. Saying it like we don't know what it was called. We know what shout out to North Park. Shout out to the Vikings and everybody who went to North Park. We got a squad of like close friends. More on my side, it's a bunch of guys who've been friends for like now 25 plus years.
Yeah. You guys started before high school.
Yeah.
You were in like middle school, or I think a lot of you were elementary.
Yeah. Grade 1 was like most of that squad.
Yeah.
And then grade 3 was like the rest, grade 4-ish. And like some of us went to different middle schools or what have you. But then in high school, like we just managed to all stay friends up until to this day. Like I got notifications from that group chat like right now. Like I'm watching the notifications from all the same guys. But one of those guys is our common friend, Andrew, who, you guys all hung out during high school. We were a different friend group, which ended up
coming together,
causing us to meet. So
exactly.
Happy about that one. But yeah, high school is interesting. I feel like for me, in high school, I was like friends with like a lot of different groups of people, but like I'm the guy that like the popular group was cool with me, but like not super cool with me because I used to hang out with the non-popular group. And then like the not popular group would be like cool with me, but like not all the way comfortable because I used to hang out with the cool kids too much. You know what I mean? So I've always been like stuck in the middle. But like that also is like something that led into who I became as an artist as well. Kind of like a sort of everyman who represents so many different walks of life or so many different types of people that I could speak from a lot of different perspectives. I'm going off on a tangent, but yeah, so I think our high school experience was like super cool for that reason, because you were one of the people that was like a embracer for me. You know what I mean? Always felt comfortable around you and the squad. So
thank you, man.
Yeah,
that's awesome. And I think because of that, though you were talking about Andrew, that's how you guys met, I believe, on the Japan trip.
Between us two? No, we met before that.
Before. I think one of Andrew's birthdays, maybe he used to do like those birthdays, those random birthdays at his house.
Yes.
Mom would make those like what do you call those? Yeah, those the Nimo bars and
cookies.
Oh my lord, his mom is the best. Like, I don't know, is it Baker? Is that what I call it?
I guess so, yeah.
So good. But yeah, I think we met at one of those parties.
Probably,
I always used to hear about you before I met you though. Angelo got jerseys. Mo got jerseys.
Oh yeah. We
That,
started
that whole era.
our little business back in the day.
Yeah.
I guess my experience with high school was kind of similar in a way, where I was kind of just like friends with everybody. I didn't really have any enemies. I was fortunate enough to go to what I considered was a pretty decent school, St. Margaret de Ville. Shout out.
Hey.
But yeah, I don't know. I had the time of my life in high school for the most part. I mean, I was pretty bad in grade 9 and grade 10, and then I kind of like straightened up a little bit. Like I was like I probably would have flunked out had I stayed on the same trajectory that I was on. Who knows where I would have ended up at that point. By the time grade 12 came around, I was still getting good grades, but like I already kind of knew that I didn't want to go to like university or college. I knew I wanted to do business or some form of business, whatever that meant. And that's kind of what ended up happening. And here we are 14 years later.
Wow.
Right. So yeah, tell us more about like your music career. So you are a hip hop artist, rapper. You obviously write your own music, production, all that fun stuff. Tell us more about like your experiences in the music industry for one.
Yeah, I could take us all the way back to the start. So my older brother actually was a rapper before me, and before he started making music, I never really even would have thought that would be something I would do. But he was from a collective called Onslaught Entertainment. He was running around downtown Toronto selling mixtapes before the mixtape era.
Nice.
They would get a bunch of like hot singles from other like street rappers that were popular in like New York and like East Coast stuff, put them all together on a mixtape, and then throw their own freestyles and just mix them in there, right? So you're listening to all the artists that you know and that are already popular or whatever, but then you hear their music
Smart
in between. So he was kind of wedging it in. And I really think, and I'm not even exaggerating when I say this, but I think he was like one of the pioneers of that style of promotion before it was really a thing. Wow. But yeah, so he used to have the multiple CD burner in the house, be duplicating the CDs, screen printing the logos on the discs and all that stuff, taught me how to do that, and then obviously had the equipment in the house. So me being a hip hop fan at that age, I would say this is probably like grade 7, grade 8, 13, 14. I was shy, so I didn't want anybody to know, but I would sneakily put instrumentals after watching how he did it, and put the instrumentals into SoundForge, which is what we used at the time, record over them, and then just listen to it back. And like, I thought it was good, but I didn't think at the time it was any better than anyone else could do. Like in my mind is like, everyone could do this. Like I could always dance, I could always write poetry, I could always do all of that stuff well. But I played some stuff for my brothers and my sisters, and they're like, you know, shocked. And I'm looking at them like, yeah, it's bad, isn't it? And they're looking at me like, nah, like this is you. So, you know, long story short, that told me there was something I could do. I had a talent there, kept on doing it. Started selling mixtapes in high school, grade 9. And I would walk into the caf with a lunch bag full of our CDs and sell them. And that grew into what became Waffles and Beats.
Oh yeah.
Did a bunch of great videos with Dusty Loops. Shout out to Dusty Loops. Shout out to Element or Happy. And yeah, decided let's take this serious. So I went to university, but while studying in university, I was still doing music kind of like on the side. And even then it was still kind of a hobby, but kind of serious. Cause like, you know, your parents are like, you gotta be a doctor, you gotta be a lawyer. So that's always like in the forefront. But in all honesty, like I just started to realize this is just what I want to do with my life. So I dropped out of McMaster and then started focusing on it a lot more. Stayed with Waffles and Beats for a couple of years, decided we were going to move downtown to really pursue this music thing. When I say we, that's myself, Tremaine, and Jay. Had the perfect opportunity, somebody who already lived downtown and needed roommates to help, you know, with the rent, and had a couple extra spaces. One of those spaces was just like literally a closet, like the solarium. Moved into the solarium, was paying $450 a month for rent, which now when I think about it, it's like, holy shit, like that same space is probably like $1,200.
Yeah, that's gross.
But yeah, moved downtown to pursue the dream. Was thinking of a name to call the squad. At that time I had released a single called Stay Out Late.
Season 1, I think, right?
Yeah. Had a house party to just kind of celebrate my parents being gone to Ghana for a few months, and B, us just leaving Brampton to go downtown, and just invited a couple people, had a secret address thing, and this turned into Project X. I don't know if that ages me, but Project X, a crazy party where shit got out of hand. But anyways, we were like, what's the perfect name for our collective and what we represent? And it became Stay Out Late.
Love that.
Yeah.
That's cool. In terms of your music, what would you say, what kind of inspired you or influenced you to start, I guess, creating your own music, whether it's lyrically? Did you start out like, because I know every rapper kind of does his own thing. Some people are more like production side. Some dudes like to do beats. Some guys like to focus on, writing songs and actually singing and rapping, that sort of thing. Where did you start in terms of that kind of stuff?
I think what separated me from my brother when I started is I started doing the beats at the same time. Initially, I would just rap over whatever instrumentals were available online, Bearshare, or whatever it was we were using. There was a mixtape series called J Arms, and they would have like the top 20 instrumentals of like that time of the year. And like everybody who was a rapper would wait for this mixtape to come out to rap on all the new beats, right? So that's where I started. But I downloaded FL Studios. We used to call it Fruity Loops, and just started playing around with it because I'm a nerd, right? Like I just was geeking out on Fruity Loops and just trying to figure out sounds, and I was like, all right, why didn't I try making my own beats? So it kind of started like within, I would say, months of each other, like rapping seriously and making the beats. So I can do the whole thing top to bottom. Because I guess that's just how my brain works. I prefer to focus on like the lyrical part of it because I just think that there are other people that are around me now that are better at the beat making side of things. So I still focus on lyrics, songwriting in general, which is I guess separate from lyric writing, but like writing the melody, writing the hooks, like what's the sugar on top of the medicine, you know what I mean? Like thinking of ideas and creative concepts for the music, but like literally the whole thing. And as I'm writing music, I'll get the visuals for what the video should be, and it's like something I can't turn off, so I do the whole thing, and like write for others as well. But as far as like my own material, I'll do it top to bottom and maybe just have somebody else make the beats. So
right,
yeah, makes a lot of sense. With focusing a lot on the lyrics, do you find yourself ever kind of what's the word for it? Going through kind of like a phase where you're kind of like almost in a brain fart where you can't think of something to write?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
More often than I would like, for sure.
Yeah.
I think that's something that most artists won't admit, but sometimes it doesn't hit. But you two are creative, so too. It could just be a matter of you needed to hear the right string of words together, or take a break, watch a movie, and then something you saw made it click. Or when I have because for me the discipline is important. So if I set out to make something every day of a week and I have a day where there are no ideas coming, I can't just be like, okay, no, I'm not going to do it today. I'll relax and then just listen to good music, because that always does it. That's how it started for me, was listening and being a fan. Yeah. So literally search for inspiration.
Yeah.
Just by relaxing and just being a listener, and it always happens after that. And then sometimes you'll get to a point where after so much repetition, you can kind of force it until it happens. But yeah, to answer your question, I definitely get writer's block very often. I feel like even now, like having been a rapper as long as I have been, the hip hop game has changed significantly as far as like how much do people want to, like how much attention do people invest in what the lyrics are versus what the melody is versus what the vibe or the bop is, right? So trying to straddle between making what I want to make and then making what I know will help me pay the bills,
right,
is always a conversation that I'm having in my head also. So as you can imagine, like that will make writer's block ensue for sure, because you're like, hey, I have an idea and I think it's good, but like maybe this is not what the direction to go for what I'm trying to accomplish with this piece specifically. So yeah, it happens for sure.
Going back to that, you know, the meaningful lyrics versus the, like you said, the bop. Have you ever just completely surrendered and been like, you know what, I want to make something that's just totally gonna be very okay? So your song, my favorite song of yours is Heart Emoji, which I just think the melody is so good. Like me and my wife, we love that song, and I just feel like it's such a good, it's everything from beginning to end is just so good. Have you ever been like, you know, I'm going to just write a banger and I don't really care what I say? Not that that's what you're doing in that song, but that one is just grabbed me so quickly and so well. Do you ever just surrender to that and be like, you know what, fuck it, why not? And this time I'm going to do that.
Yes. But my personality won't allow me to just like do it. If I do it, it has to be like some kind of tongue-in-cheek, like if you know lyric in there that's saying, hey, I'm doing this to do this, because it still allows me to be creative in that sense, but not overly creative. So it's dumbed down in maybe the spacing, or like how deep is the punchline, or you know, whatever something lyrical would give you. But yeah, I always gotta do something in it that I can stand behind, because like I won't like it if I just. So Heart Emoji, for example, is like me channeling life experience and just making it simple. Like, you know, like if anything, which I think is cool. That's probably one of the more me songs than my intricate songs, because it's so simple. Like, you don't know why I don't reply, but I love you. Yeah. Like I was going through a situation at that time where I wasn't the most communicative partner. I was, you know, dealing with my own stuff, and like to that person, it probably felt like I was closed off and didn't want to communicate, and maybe it seemed like the love wasn't there anymore. But so that was the message, you know what I mean? So I think if you're creative enough, there's always a way to appeal to a mass audience and still maintain some creative integrity. That's just something I believe. And you can just be a little bit easier on yourself when you're writing, maybe, and tap into something different, you know?
Definitely.
Yeah. I'm glad you like that song for the record, because it's one of my personal favorites. Anytime I perform it, it's like the number one. Like hands are waving, lights, cell phone lights, lighters.
Yeah, I love that. I love that song. Isn't it funny how everyone uses cell phones now instead of lighters at shows?
So crazy. So crazy.
Well, I think there's significantly less people who smoke, right? I mean, unless you're going to bust out your vape or something. Depending on how bright it is, I suppose.
Imagine explaining to your grandkids, like, when it's just completely not a thing anymore. Like, hey, at concerts, you know, we used to use lighters and like actually have flames in the air. They're like, yo, you guys are crazy.
Yeah, and then I would drive home and listen to a cassette.
Right.
They're not going to know what that is.
Pop a cassette. Oh my god! Imagine trying to explain to younger people what record players were. Yeah, we used to have this big vinyl, we used to call it, and we had to take the needle off gently and place the the vinyl in the record in there.
I don't know if that's gonna go away though. Like, so what do you think
it's
about
coming
like
back?
Well, it's been back. It's always been, but I feel like the last few years it's been coming back harder.
Over the last 10 years, that's what I've noticed. It's become more trendy. I find like record players have suddenly all of a sudden become mass produced. Like all of a sudden they were just popped up on Amazon, and every like older person was getting them, and then the younger people were like, oh, what's this thing? And then their parent would teach them, well, son, this is a record player.
Right.
So a few years ago I asked Tremaine about it. I don't know, I think we were probably at an Andrew party most likely, right? And I was just like, what's the deal with, because my dad had one, and I'm just like, I can carry everything in my pocket on my iPod. Why would I?
Not the same.
So he was saying it's just like the sound is different. It's not
it's more raw. It sounds almost like as if they're performing like in front of you. It's so like unrefined, so to say, is what I kind of found, the way the sound was on a record versus the way like CDs, like once they started producing things for CDs, everything was so like clean and
digital.
It's like you couldn't really hear like that rawness to it, where it was like if you're listening to like Led Zeppelin 4 or something, it was just like blowing your eardrums off because it was just so grungy and grimy, and it was just in your face kind of thing. Whereas later on, it kind of changed, right?
Right. Well, if you think about it, like everything digital is ones and zeros. Literally, it's binary. So there's a space in between you don't get when you're listening to anything that's digital, which the record has. That space between the 0 and the 1 is on vinyl, because that's like the real recording. So I think even if it's something that you can't hear, it's something you can feel, which makes it feel better. And that might sound like, that's not a real thing, but it is a real thing, like frequencies, you know what I mean? So I do think like vintage culture is obviously like been a thing for the past like few years, but I think it'll be interesting to see if like in like 20 years CDs are the new vinyls. Like,
oh wow, imagine
kids
that.
start burning CDs again and stuff. Like, who knows? You know what I mean? Everything's cyclical, I feel like. So I wouldn't be surprised if it happened, for sure.
Yeah, man. Suddenly, all of a sudden, Blu-rays are coming back one day. We're like, what is this, right? You can buy Blu-rays at Walmart for like $2.99. Remember Blu-rays were like $40 at one point? And it was just like, I ain't paying $40. I'm just going to download it. Not recommending illegally downloading things. But let's just say, a few years ago, torrents were a very popular thing. They're still pretty popular today. So, but it's always better to pay for something, especially when somebody puts in so much time and effort to create a song. They might as well, earn something from it. So, I mean, I remember when Napster, you guys remember Napster?
Of course.
Was the thing Napster? And what was the other one? LimeWire?
LimeWire.
Oh,
Napster, LimeWire, BearShare.
Right.
Kazaa.
Oh, man. I haven't heard that name in a long time.
You can tell I was bootlegging music. Bro.
Oh, for sure. And then that all got cut a little short when Metallica decided to do something about Napster. And then I think that was basically the fall of
like the beginning
Napster,
of the end. Yeah.
And then LimeWire, I remember, was just full of viruses. Like you would download something on LimeWire, and it was just like every second file was a virus.
That's how I learned what a .exe file is. Do not ever download those.
If it says juicy boobs at the end of the song title, you probably shouldn't download it.
Oh my God. So back to your music. What do you like, or what is a lot of your music written about? Like what are they stories? Are they
there's a whole spectrum. It's always a hard question for me to answer, but I like trying to answer it because it helps me. Like it literally, like for business purposes, it's good to be able to do, because people want to know like, how do you market like yourself or whatever. But the easiest way I wrap it up is life. So, in life, good things happen, bad things happen, love happens, violence happens. Alcohol and substance abuse happens. Partying happens. Life, death. Like all of those things are things that I write about from my perspective, for sure. So all of my favorite artists growing up, like the Jay-Z's, the Eminems, the 50 Cents, if you listen to any of their albums, you're gonna get a range of different things. You're gonna get storytelling. You're gonna get some like street shit. Maybe you're gonna get some positive, some positive energy. You're gonna get maybe some negative. You're gonna get something sexual. So like I always modeled my own writing after that, and the easiest way to do it well is to make it about something real, so people can feel it. So everything I write about has some sort of connection to my life or something that's inspired me. Yeah, I don't know if that answers the question.
Yeah.
But like, everything. But I would use life as the word. I do like random storytelling or like more conceptual stuff that's like abstract. Like if you listen to like a Travis Scott, for example, or more current would be like a Baby Keem. Baby Keem has like lyrics in his raps that are like almost abstract, as like a Nirvana song, for instance. It doesn't really mean anything, but it has a feel to it. I find myself doing a lot of that as well now. But yeah.
Very good. Yeah, I don't know. When I was younger, I always used to be very interested in song lyrics. Like I would literally sit there, because I was like super into music, mostly like rock. Did listen to a lot of rap and all sorts of different stuff. And I would literally just sit there for hours and just go on like song meaning websites and just like read, like, because it's just like comment after comment, right? And it's just like you're listening to a Nirvana song, for example. Before the show, we were talking to how apparently we both love Nirvana and we're just like obsessed with it, or was obsessed with the band. And I would just sit there for hours and just read all the comments. And it was kind of interesting because you can kind of see the way people's brains were operating, because no one lyric could mean the exact same thing to every single person on planet Earth, right? Somebody might, it's kind of like the Bible. Like somebody will read something and one person might decipher it one way, another person might read it and they might decipher it completely different, right? So I don't know, I just kind of thought that was a fun thing to do. Plus I was in like bands and stuff. We weren't very good, but it was just a fun experience in life. Like you said, life's full of experiences, and sometimes you get to create some cool stuff out of things that happen in life, and it's cool that it influences your music in a way.
Absolutely.
I had a different reason for reading lyrics. It was always because everything I was listening to was mostly screaming.
Right. So sometimes it was hard to pick up. Yeah.
I would open the used in Love and Death to try to figure out what he's screaming. You know what I mean? You open up the you know when the CD, the
pamphlet?
Okay, so kids, listen. Back in the day, things used to be sold with booklets. For example, CDs used to come with booklets that would have the lyrics inside or whatever. I loved the ones that they were like handwritten lyrics. Video games also used to come with books on how to play the game. So that's just a
Or maps.
nice tidbit. Oh yeah, the
Grand
maps.
Theft Auto had a giant
The Grand
map
Theft
that
Auto
you-
maps.
It's on my
Right?
wall. Like
Grand Theft Auto?
yeah,
I had one too on my wall that it just got destroyed. I don't know what I did with it after that.
Kojo's a fan.
I got a Rockstar Games tattoo on my hand, just cause like it's so central to my
Dude,
life. Like Grand
those were
Theft Auto, Bully, Red Dead Redemption.
Bully. I remember that one. I had a my PS2, I got chipped or whatever you would call it back then. It was modded or whatever the hell people called it. And I figured out how to burn games. I would download the ISO file and then burn the actual file on a DVD. And Bully was one of them. It was like it was a really, really well-made game, but for some reason, most people just never knew this game even existed. But it was amazing. So the sad part was I had these two games that I'd love. One was like some gladiator game, and then the other one was Bully. But for some reason, I don't know if it was something wrong with the PlayStation, I'd get like 40 minutes in, and then the game would just freeze. And then I just lost all my progress, and I would have to completely start over. But oh man, those games were good.
Wow.
Right? But Rockstar,
I felt that right.
right? Like right. Oh, you're like no, not again. But yeah, GTA is just iconic. Like the big one was what? GTA, the one in Liberty City, was that 3?
GTA 3 was Liberty City. Then Vice City was like the Miami.
Then San Andreas, I think.
And then San Andreas.
was huge.
And I think like it's always hard for me to choose between Vice City and San Andreas because
The story.
yeah, the story. And by the time they got to Vice City, like they mastered it. Like GTA 3 and Liberty City was the first time they did the 3D
Right.
like open world. So that was like super innovative for its time. There are other games I think that mess around with like open world, but just not to that degree. And then like with Vice City, they just went crazy with it for the first time. Like that's the only game I've like 100% like legit. Like I found every hidden package, did all the rampages, did all.
I did the
I
same
could go
thing.
on forever.
Yeah.
So I got 150 health, 150 armor. Yeah, like legit, you know. But yeah, San Andreas. It's hard for me to choose between those two because that San Andreas was definitely a cultural moment. They still make there's still memes.
Oh yeah,
on Instagram,
huge man.
In San Andreas,
CJ in the front of the house.
That was a good time. And I would literally just, when I was a kid, San Andreas, I would just grab a truck or something and just go off-roading like into the mountains for just hours. And my mom would be like, what are you doing? It's 6 o'clock. Oh, nothing. Okay, come for dinner. Okay, in a minute. And then like 2 hours later, you haven't eaten anything.
It's 6
and then
o'clock again.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden it's like the next day.
What are you still doing up? Or those times when you're driving a car in the street and actually following the rules, following the law, not running red lights.
I like doing that. I like doing it sometimes.
It's fun, yeah. It's I remember at one point I bought a steering wheel, like the steering wheel with the gas pedals and whatever, and I somehow it wasn't actually made for Grand Theft Auto, but somehow I managed to configure it. And every time you had to start the game, you had to do like the configuration settings. You had to like press a button, gas, and set to A or whatever button it was.
Right, like do the mapping, like the key mapping.
Yeah. Oh my god, that was a good time growing up. It was I think it was GTA 3 was the one that actually made me get a PS2 because my friend had it, and I was pretty poor at the time when I was a kid, and I'm just like, oh, I need to get a PlayStation 2. Like, this is amazing. And I don't even think I still had an N64 or anything at that time. I don't think I had any systems at all. I didn't even have PlayStation 1. I just jumped to PS2.
Right.
But I would just go to my friend's house and just play theirs because I couldn't afford my own, right? So but yeah, so in terms of your music, what would you say sets you differently from others? Like, is it like, do you have a specific style that you think that maybe kind of differentiates you from like a lot of the other people, especially maybe even locals?
Yeah. And this is something that like I kind of cultivated more recently, just because like I'm experimental in general. So I, like I said, I'll have a spectrum of different sounds. Like the project or campaign that I'm working on right now, there's no two songs that sound alike. Maybe there's two. Maybe there is only two that
are
sound
kind of similar.
Yeah, that you could say are interchangeable maybe. So it's just always been really hard for me to, if I have an idea, not do the idea and like stick to like a comfort zone. I don't know how to, like, I don't know how people do it. Like, just keep making similar music that they've already, for me, like, I already checked that box. So, like, now I want to do something different. So, but more recently, I always try to think ahead, but then, like, keep it me and keep it organic at the same time. So, like, right now, there's a lot of, like, trap beats. A lot of stuff sounds kind of dark, and there's, like, heavy 808s and, like, the vocals are auto-tuned and like all of that, which is like something I picked up. Like when I started, auto-tune wasn't a thing, and auto-tune became a thing. I, you know, grew with the way the style grew. But what I don't see people doing, and they better not try this if they
it's copyrighted.
Yeah, it's stamped right now.
It's
as of the date of
right
this
now.
video releasing. But yeah, people, I don't really hear so much like break beats or boom bap beats with the vocals auto-tuned, if that makes sense. So like imagine like Future rapping over like a break beat, like a beat nuts beat, like a boom, like a, you know, but then auto-tune vocals on top of that. So it's like, it still has the feel of like classic lyrical hip hop. I can still be lyrical in what I write, but the sound is contemporary because there's auto-tune on it, and I'm rapping. And like, I feel like when I like try to do that, it comes very naturally, comes very easily, and it sounds amazing to me. So if there were a style that I'm going to identify with as what separates me from any other artist locally or globally, I would say that's it. That's my like, that's my bag. And I feel like it's also me as a person as well. Like I'm like a old soul, but then still very much into what's new and always thinking ahead. So yeah, that's what we're gonna try to do for the next little while until people catch on. Then we'll do something else.
Yeah. So you got a new song coming out soon. Is that like that style? Is that what you're referring to? That kind of.
If we're talking about
What was the name of this song?
Firewall.
So Firewall, that's an interesting one. And Firewall is so I got like a side project that I'm doing called Can't Blame the Internet. That's like a working title right now, because I just wanted to write, like, again, when I was saying you can write music that you just want to write, and then write music that you're going to need to pay the bills with, that you also believe in. Firewall and that whole Can't Blame the Internet project is me just writing what I feel like writing, just for fun, not caring if it does well, not caring if it streams. Like if somebody told me you're never going to make another $1 off music again in your life, I would continue doing music and it would sound like Firewall.
Okay, so just so everybody knows, we were talking about you coming on tonight, and thank you for doing the show with us. And you said, hey, I'm going to send you this song that nobody's heard yet. He sent it to us. It's a song called Firewall. Unfortunately, we're not going to show it on the show today, but I can assure you guys, once you go over to his pages, whether it's Spotify, Apple Music, I don't know where else you would find them all, that song is going to blow the hell up because it is so good. That song is really, really good.
It was cool. It was very, very refreshing. Like, I've never really heard anything kind of like that before in that genre of music. So like you said, it's cool that you're doing something that's like really, really new.
Yeah.
And I could see it really taking off too. And there was a couple other tracks that there was one that you mentioned.
Shout out to sorry to interrupt. Shout out to Dean, by the way, who produced the beat for Firewall. He's a up and coming producer. And was just like, hey, I'm not super confident in this one, but like, what kind of beats you listen to? And I'm like, just send whatever, literally whatever. And he sent that, and immediately I was like, yeah, it hit. Like, yeah, that was not one of the ones with the writer's block where I had to put on a movie. Like, that was like.
So when you like, for example, that song, did you get the beat first and then write everything else after?
Yeah, I got the beat first, and then it was like immediate inspiration. And I think at that time I was probably scrolling through Instagram. Maybe got into, and I rarely do this, but maybe got into like a comment war with somebody stupid about something stupid, and it probably wasted like an hour and a half of my time. Oh yeah,
I used to do that back in the day. But.
Yeah, sometimes you get drawn in, right?
Sometimes you gotta show this motherfucker who's boss.
Exactly,
right?
Like, you're an idiot, man, and you need to leave this conversation understanding that. But I think I was probably just feeling like annoyed and just fed up about, like, the hook is like ain't no need to disrespect. Just say no or just say yes. Have my playlist, have my set. Yeah, getting it all free. Getting it all. Give me guns and give me sex. If it's violence, that's a bet. Ain't no thank you, no respect. Just getting it all free. And that was me like reflecting on like the internet. Like we're creating content right now. You create content. You're giving. Right? Without a promise of getting anything back. And people consume. Yeah. Violence, sex, guns, drugs, comedy, whatever, you name it. And it's all free.
Yeah. You know so you're talking about them getting all of this good stuff for free.
I'm telling you, you're getting all of this for free. And I'm pissed because like you got shit to say. Like you're not pushing anything forward. You're not pushing the agenda forward by just chiming in on shit that you see that other people have put time and effort into creating. You know what I mean? So like, I don't really. I find a lot of people when it comes to content like that, especially things like on YouTube. Now you have Spotify, so basically everybody's music is pretty much free. Yeah. They don't see the time and the effort. Like for example, how many hours would it take you to actually put one song together? Oh man, it could be anywhere from like, I would say 5 hours on the minimum and to like 2 weeks worth of time, right? Yeah. Between the studio sessions, between mixing, mastering, between the writing, conceptualizing, between the conversations we have about the marketing plan and promoting, there's a lot of time that goes into one song. And it even reminds me of like threads, like message boards. Like you get a mod and you get the people who are like, who contribute to the conversation, and then everyone else can come and take that information and do whatever they want with it. Hey, like it's very bless the hearts of the people who contribute to this whole thing. You know what I mean? But yeah, exactly. But yeah, a lot of people, I guess, kind of behind the scenes, they don't see the amount of effort and work and even money. Like when it comes to things that I do, like a lot of people don't realize how much money it takes to actually be able to do what I do, right? People think, oh, they're getting all these views and they must be making all this money. And it's like, for example, I booked one location in Pittsburgh called Hillview Manor, which is an old haunted nursing home. And in order to book the entire building for myself was about $1,200 US. So it was like 15 to 1,600 Canadian. Jeez. And between doing one live stream and 2 full-length 1-hour videos, I think I maybe just broke even, just barely. Right. So it's like I didn't even make a profit. Plus I had an employee at the time. Plus you got to account for gas, got to account for hotels and this and that. And people don't realize like how much actually goes into it. Right. So people just don't appreciate sometimes. And not to sound like I don't love the process, because if I didn't, I wouldn't do it. but I just wrote a song about like, hey, by the way, just so you know, you know what I mean? You could be paying for all of this, you know what I mean? But you're not, so you're welcome.
Do you think that the music industry has changed from the time before streaming music to this point? Like, I mean, okay, so maybe we'll talk about that as well. But in terms of has the consumer changed? And then I don't know if you were selling CDs and everything, but maybe you hit your stride kind of sort of after Spotify and all that already came up. Is that right?
Yeah. And like there's been like peaks and valleys, right? But the consumer is definitely spoiled now.
Right.
And it's nothing to complain about. It's just the way the world is, right? We get a lot of stuff for like, you know, you don't go to Blockbuster and rent one movie or two movies maybe one weekend if you're feeling like let's have a real fun weekend. You get two movies and not one.
I just have to say,
so
rest in peace, Blockbuster.
Oh yeah, for sure.
There is one location left.
Bend,
somewhere.
Oregon.
Is that it?
Yeah, really? Yeah.
There's
It's called
one,
the last Blockbuster.
Yeah, I have to go one day. It's too bad it's in Oregon. No, no offense to Oregon, but I hear some really shaky things about Portland. Is it in Portland?
I just went to Portland.
I thought it was.
Is it? Okay, we're gonna get into that about your experiences there, but I don't know exactly where it's at. But I would like to go, and they do an Airbnb actually, so you can actually stay overnight in the last Blockbuster, which is pretty cool. I'd love to do that. I would like to do a whole series of just like going to like really weird Airbnbs, right? Just like the Airbnb on the back of a moving truck, or like an Airbnb in the last Blockbuster. There's actually one Airbnb that we wanted to do. It was in Roswell, New Mexico, and it was an underground ICBM missile bunker. So it's like 10 levels underground, and it's like an old school bunker from the Cold War, essentially. There's no nuke, obviously, anymore, but they've completely converted it into an entire Airbnb, which would be amazing. Like, I've done some pretty unique ones too, but that one would be really, really cool. Just as a, thought. My thoughts are just coming in all of a sudden.
Love it.
This is the creative process, right?
It.
Sometimes you have conversations with people and you just think of really cool shit to do, right?
100%.
But
yeah, the consumer is definitely they're a little spoiled, and it's all good. Like you have to make more content. The consistency is not like, it's a little bit more difficult than it was before to keep up, because if you're not releasing music, there's 50,000 other artists that I could listen to. The lifespan of each individual piece of work, I feel like, is that much shorter now. So like you get artists releasing albums 2 times a year, 3 times a year now, versus some artists could release one album and then take 4 or 5 years off before you were tired of that one, and then the second one comes out. We got like legends who've only ever had like 2 albums, you know what I mean? But right now with hip hop specifically, like you got guys on 7th, 8th, 9th, and they've only been doing music for 4 years, 5 years, So that's definitely changed. It's forced everyone to just be a little bit more diligent about continuing to create. But I still believe though that you can still make timeless art that stands the test of time. 100%. A guy like Frank Ocean is an example of that for me. But yeah, the music industry definitely changed for sure.
Yeah. I find that a lot of times when it comes to music, and this is actually really cool, there's always like a track that, obviously it does okay in its time. Like, let's say back in the 80s. And then all of a sudden a TV show comes out called Stranger Things. Do you know the song Running Up That Hill?
Oh, yeah.
And that song is actually like amazing. Like it's super well written. The music video is amazing. And then all of a sudden it comes out on Stranger Things, and it worked so well for that scene that like you look at the view counter now on YouTube and it's just like blown up. Yeah. Right. So that's kind of cool. Like you said, it's like a timeless piece that didn't really get too much traction back in the day. And then all of a sudden, 42 years later, all of a sudden the song is used in something and then just all of a sudden blows up.
Or it's in like a TikTok or something like that. And
exactly.
For kids growing up now, that's the first time they're exposed to it. So they're like, oh wow.
They got to know the song. They got to know the name of the song, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. I thought that was pretty cool. And then the other thing I found out with like that song in particular, because I randomly stumble across like random artists on YouTube all the time, right? And there was one version of that song that was a cover song, but it was like an emo pop kind of cover. It's by a guy who calls himself Loveless, and the dude wrote that song, got millions of hits on this one cover song, and just blew up. And like for us, that's like kind of our thing. And that
our type of
like,
music. Yeah.
it's a little bit more poppy than screamo type of stuff that we used to listen to, but
Right.
yeah, it was a really really cool rendition of that specific song. And then you got to go back and listen to I think her name was Emma Bush. I think that's who wrote the original song. I think so. I think I'll look it up, but yeah. But yeah, what else? So when it comes to, do you do a lot of like shows like right now? Are you like in the midst of doing a lot of like live shows, or are you just kind of, because right now you're working on the new music. So how does it work? Or do you release the song first and then use that to promote the shows that you're going to be doing probably shortly? You have any plan in the plans, I guess?
Yes, it's kind of like I feel like this year compared to years prior, we've probably done the least amount of live.
Mm-hmm.
But I think once we started Stay Out Late, the live show I think was our like superpower, because we all lived downtown. All of like the like more open mic style, like smaller venue stuff was happening like always within like 10 minutes walking of where we all lived. So I think that first year we probably did like 30 to 40 like shows and never had any music online, or had like one or two things on SoundCloud. So like the word in Toronto, I feel like spread just super organically, like word of mouth about how crazy the live show was.
Yeah.
So like that's something that since the beginning, Tony, you want me to get into like Stay Out Late, like how?
Tell us how it all started.
I know I kind of like touched on it like before.
So what is it exactly? It's your group, right? A whole bunch of artists all together.
Absolutely.
You just call your entire your posse, I guess we'll call it, Stay Out Late, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Stay Out Late, or collective, if you will. The idea, like I said before, like it started, the name came from the fact that I wrote a song called Stay Out Late, and the hook was like 1, 2, what are you gonna do, 3, 4, liquor store, 5, 6, blah blah blah, chicks, 7, 8, stay out late. But like it started to transform into like a reflection of the mentality we all had when we first moved downtown, which was like, it doesn't matter what time it is. Like if we set out and we decided we were going to do this, like we're going to do it, and we're not going back home until it's done. So like that became a metaphor for, striving, like, set your mind on something, head out to go get that, and don't quit until you have it is literally what Stay Out Late represents, but have fun doing it at the same time. Right. So that was like, that's the energy behind it. But so me and Tremaine, I would say the first two artists went to North Park together. President Jeff was our producer. Shout out to President Jeff, doing amazing things in the production sphere still to this day. But when we moved downtown, it was me, Tremaine, and then Jay. And then that was like the group. We had other members kind of come in, come out since, but another artist who's a great artist as well, who was doing the same show circuit we were doing when Stay Out Late started. He was part of a group called Osime. So shout out to Nova, and shout out to Charlie Noir, who's now part of Stay Out Late. So we kind of like,
I've been seeing him a lot over the last
blended the
few
groups
years,
together, and he's just like amazing songwriter, super consistent, and just like he's like my favorite artist right now.
Nice.
You know what I mean? And like I don't even just say that just to promo, but like if I didn't know him, like I'd be like, this is the guy I'm listening to right now. He's next up, which is a fact. Like he's got next for sure.
Nice.
But yeah, so that's the group. But like over our time doing this, we inserted ourselves in the Toronto scene by not only performing live shows but curating the shows. So we built relationships with like promoters or like with North by Northeast, Canadian Music Week, all these organizations that put on shows in Toronto, we made relationships with, so they would give us money to curate a show as curators. We would book the talent and then headline our own show.
Sick.
So that blew the exposure up like crazy. So, and then that also allowed us to build more relationships. So we started doing like getting into the fashion sphere with Finale Friday, where we used to just have like free liquor in a clothing store, in a boutique, and just invite all the people that we wanted to network with, or people who were designers could showcase their clothing and network. So Stay Out Late morphed into beyond just a music group, but into a collective that just does damn near everything from like fashion to arts to event promo to event curation. So we have a monthly event at Cold Tea called Jungle, which is the third Friday of every month, and it's literally a party, like it's a club party. So, but we run it.
Nice.
So like everybody, it's awesome to have a group of people with diverse skill sets in that way, that we can handle and manage that many things on top of music, and then use everything as a vehicle to promote the rest. So that's what Stay Out Late is. So leading into us doing shows, we spent so much time doing the groundwork and building all the relationships and performing that we were lacking, I would say, on the online consistency front, which is what we've made a concerted effort to do this year and like last year, which is why you're starting to see Charlie Noir busy everywhere, which is why you're seeing Tremaine releasing singles. And then for me, the latter half of this year, it's all gonna be my stuff, and then we're not gonna stop until we have the visibility that we want to have outside of Toronto.
Nice.
Outside of Toronto, do you guys have any? Have you had an opportunity to like perform outside of Toronto, or had any trips specifically just for your music, whether it was for a performance or to record something, or maybe to network with some other people?
Was lucky enough in 2018 or 2017 to perform at SOB's, which is like a really well-known legendary hip-hop venue. Like Travis Scott's first like breakout performance was at SOB's. Like a lot of artists have had their first like real industry show at SOB's. So
wow, where is it?
Manhattan, if I'm not mistaken.
Got it.
This was a while ago, so memory of a fog. But it's in New York City. But got to perform there. We participated in the A3C festival in Atlanta, so we performed on the Toronto Artist Showcase in Atlanta for the cool. A3C festival. Performed in LA most recently for the After Church LA show. That's like the name of the organization or the group, the show that they put on. So yeah, been blessed to be able to perform at a few different places, and then like obviously like around the GTA. So like you're in Niagara Falls, you're in Montreal, like we've done like that circuit as well. Never done a actual show overseas. I would say maybe Ghana. I could kind of count Ghana.
What happened in Ghana?
I did a show in a show I performed like for my family in Ghana, but like the way it is there, it's so communal. Like everything, like if you do something for like a few people, word's gonna spread really fast. So like so I've performed there, but like there wasn't anything planned, so I wouldn't count it in that sense. But had the opportunity to go pretty far around the world. Hopefully Europe next.
That's really cool. I remember, if you want to talk about some early shows, I remember, so I've more than you. I've gone to a few of your shows. I think maybe probably like a handful, 4 to 5 shows. One of the first ones was with you. We were going, do you remember, what's it called? All Stars in Brampton?
Is that where the show was?
That's where the show was.
Man.
That's where the show.
That place
was that your favorite place to ever perform?
Yeah, I loved it. Career. It was on the bucket list. It was scratched it right off. You know?
So All Stars in Brampton is a very small bar with a stage that's like 4 inches off the ground.
And a lot of heart. A lot of heart at All Stars. 100%. dive bar. Would you call
Absolute.
it? Would you call it dive bar?
Totally.
Yeah.
That's where people go to throw down, man.
Yeah.
They go there for purposely looking with Steve.
Throw down.
Oh my God!
Throw
so,
up.
Throw up.
Throw
Yeah. Throw sideways.
Yeah,
throw you into a wall.
Throw
through
around.
the window.
Yeah.
Whatever
Anything.
happens, right? But yeah, we have a friend, Steve. He's going to be on the show
Tomorrow?
this week, Friday, I think. Yeah,
Friday.
so we're going to have him on the show. But he was in a band. He was a drummer. And he's tiny. He's like probably 115 pounds soaking wet. Like he's scrawny. So what was it?
And this was also like 10 years ago too, so he would have been just out of high school at that time. So at that time he was very small, and he was drumming, and there was a show for his band that night at All Stars in Brampton. And after that, one of the
some random dude just
wanted to fight him.
Decided to fight. Yeah, it was just out of nowhere. This dude just randomly was like,
and this dude was like in his maybe 60s.
Yeah, he was a grown ass
man trying to fight a high school kid.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know, man. I don't know. There was another place I remember. I don't know if you guys remember it. At one point, I believe it was called the Club on Queen.
Yeah,
but I can't remember the name of it before that. It was. It's on Queen.
Oh
like,
man, what was
refresh
that?
my memory for a second.
It's
Queen and
Bramley.
What's the cross street?
Bramley.
Yeah, Bramley. It's like it was near. Would you remember the Nando's?
Yeah,
Right across
in that
from
plaza.
Jacuzzi Park.
Yeah.
So it was like almost like there was the Oscars, and then like across from that on the same side was this random club, and I don't remember for the life of me what it was called. I do remember it. The original name closed down, and then it got turned into something called Club on Queen. Lasted maybe a couple years, and then just went completely under. But I used to go there like every second weekend because there would be some night. So first they would do all the hip hop artists, I think would be first, and then after that was all like the rock bands, or vice versa. I don't remember the exact order, but we used to go there all the time. There was a lot of drugs for one. Like, it was a bad place for a bunch. Dude, we were like 14, 15 years old, all completely oblivious. Like I didn't really do. I maybe smoked a little weed back then, but apart from that, like I didn't know what the hell was going on. And then my friends are all like talking about all these people. They would go in the washrooms, and people, were doing things in the washroom, explicit things that I probably can't mention right now, but it was bad, man. That was a rough place, but it was a place for a small little band or a little hip hop artist to kind of try and showcase themselves, right? So I mean, do what you got to do. Is it coming up?
As Waffles and Beats, we had actually shout out to Dusty Loops again, like art shows where they would do live body painting and like all of that stuff in Club on Queen. I don't remember if it was during the Club on Queen era or the whatever it was called era, but that definitely.
I didn't find the name before, but Club on Queen turned into Town Talk. If you remember that name at all.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, but I couldn't find the name.
That was
before.
probably like right before it closed. If anybody here is from Brampton, you guys know what I'm talking about. There's probably a lot of Americans on here. And what the hell are you talking about? What's
What is
Queen?
Queen?
Like Club
What is
on
Queen?
Queen? What does that even mean? Right?
Put a whole club on her. Like, it's probably gonna hit all three of us as soon as we're done.
Oh,
Yeah.
for sure. I cannot, for the life of me, I just cannot remember the name of that place. But I used to frequent all the time because my circle of friends, like we each, one person had one band and another person had one band, and we would all go there to just, perform and just have a little bit of fun. And some bands were actually really good. A lot of really, really good bands showed up there, and they actually ended up like taking off after that. Right, so it was pretty interesting. Like bands like Monine, right? Like they don't have like a huge, massive following, but they did all right for a little like Mississauga band, right? But yeah, it's kind of surprising. Like when it comes to Canadian music, it's surprising like how many artists or bands or whatever actually manage to take off. Like when you actually start looking at the list and realizing which bands are Canadian, right? Like for the longest time, I never knew Our Lady Peace was a Canadian band. Did you know that?
Until right now,
Right?
I did not know.
Yeah, they're from. if I'm
Hamilton,
not
I
mistaken,
think.
yeah, they're from Canada.
think
And I'm like,
Hamilton or
what?
something.
I'm like,
Yeah.
there's no way, right?
Yeah.
So, but for you as a Canadian artist, do you find that it's more difficult to break through, or is it pretty much like on the same level as like if you were, in the U.S.?
I feel like we definitely have challenges that you don't have in the US, despite different challenges, but I do think it's a little bit tougher because obviously doing anything that involves having a following or building a following, you need the people to do it. So like if you have all of Toronto support, that's still only, 2-3 million people compared to like New York City, where it's like 15 million. Like the population of Canada is like 30 something million,
I think
right?
we just passed 40.
Just passed 40.
Yeah.
So 40 million, but then you factor in just California and New York, like that's our entire country. So if you manage to make every single person in this country a fan, you're still paling in comparison. So you have to do that much more legwork to stay. And that's with hip hop specifically. But like I find most of the hip hop artists that are from Canada got successful when they left. So like you gotta go to the States, or at least have a presence in the States, so that it can kind of spread. You can get in touch with the labels that matter the most, the people who can really push you out there. Then you can kind of bring it back home. So to answer the question, like I do think it's definitely more challenging as a hip hop artist in Canada, 100%. That will change, and it's easier now than it's ever been, just because of like off the backs of like the Drakes, the Tory Lanez, the Weekends, like all of these the Party Next Doors, like all these artists that started to find a way. Nav, like all these artists started to kind of find a way, and all of them did their time in the States as well. But it allowed Toronto, I feel like specifically, to be a buzzword. That kind of helps you get into doors when you're in the States. So I feel like that's the positive. Like when last time we went to LA, we would say like, hey, yeah, we're from Toronto, and people's eyes would like,
nice.
Y'all know Drake? Y'all know Drake? Like,
I drive by his house all the time, right? Homies.
I'll call him right now. He's probably sleeping, but like, but yeah, it's definitely more challenging for that reason. It just forces you to have to be that much more strategic. Like an artist in the States, I think, can have a career where they can survive off of music alone, just by being popping in their state or in their city. Like there's artists from like Louisiana, like New Orleans artists that we've never heard of, maybe we'll never hear of, that are rich off of music just because they're popular in their city, which is that's a dream. Like here, like that's not gonna happen.
Today here in Toronto, I mean, we realistically only support the Toronto Maple Leafs for some odd reason, even though they have not managed to do anything since 1967, which is kind of embarrassing, the amount of money that team makes, and they can't put a winning team together. But it's like the same thing, right? Like people support weird stuff, but with like, all the dudes like Drake, Weekend, all those kind of guys, I feel like if you said that they kind of put like a whole new set of eyes onto all the new up and comers, and people are always kind of like looking like, oh, that's a little bit different, like what's coming out of Canada these days. And then all of a sudden, Scotty IV shows up and Tremaine shows up, and people are now able to, because they're aware that there's something happening here, where there's this whole kind of group of people who are all trying to write new styles of music, right? Plus, I mean, things have been kind of just growing, and now we got Justin Bieber, who's like one of the biggest stars in the entire world, right? Completely different genre, but it's nice to see that there's all these people,
success stories,
major success stories coming out of Canada, which is good in my opinion, right?
I think The Weeknd, I was just reading it, he just surpassed Michael Jackson as I think, for having the most successful world tour, like as a black artist, like the most successful world tour as a black artist. He just surpassed Michael Jackson, which is cool, crazy. I
wonder, like, just to kind of put it in perspective, I wonder if that's because population growth, because realistically, Michael Jackson hasn't toured since it's been 14 years when he was working on This Is It. And the only reason I remember that is because it was my graduation. He literally died on the day of my graduation.
Wow.
And I just wonder, like, just to put into perspective, is it because of population growth? Is it because like stadiums are bigger, they're able to fit more people into stadiums? That's just the way my mind works.
I think there's a lot to say about the reach of the internet.
Right.
So certainly Michael Jackson was one of the largest artists that we ever knew for sure, and amazing and everything. But this is a different time where, you know, a 5-year-old can find The Weeknd on whatever he's the iPad or whatever and listen to some music there very easily, as opposed to, you know, I would have had to have my dad listening to a vinyl or a CD or a cassette or something at the time for me to learn of music when I was a kid.
Yeah, at the time, all music on the internet was so new, right? I mean, everything you had to go on iTunes, and you could either buy it there, or you had to illegally download it, or you had to actually go to the mall and go to the CD store, the music store, and actually buy something. Sunrise Records. Sunrise Records still exists.
HMV.
Have you guys seen a Sunrise Records? So I went to a mall recently. Where the heck were we? I think we were in Calgary, and there was a Sunrise Records inside the mall. I'm like, dude, who buys anything from this store? Like, do people still buy CDs and DVDs?
Sunrise closed and then came back.
Like, why?
Yeah.
Just go away.
It's literally like vintage culture. I feel like
it has like, to be. Yeah,
it's a novelty now. It's like, oh wow, you can go buy this. Like, I'm cool. I went and bought this physical music.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, man. It just seemed weird because there was like no one in the store, and then we walked in and we were just browsing, and they're all just like standing there, like waiting, as if maybe we were like the only customers for the day, right? And it's like, nah, dude. Like, I could just, if I want to listen to something, I'll just go on YouTube or just search it up real quick, and just listen to it right away. Right. So
what's the what would you say is the best way to create exposure for yourself or for any artist? Is it, so I was wondering, because I know you and I have gone to a show together as well. You and I have gone to a lot of shows together, and I've found a lot of my favorite artists through them supporting the headliner in shows. So I was gonna say, so going back to that, we went to a show together, and actually there's a tidbit about this. We went to go see Billy Talent together. It was a show in Toronto. They did their 10-year anniversary for their first album or something. That show was the last night I hung out with, sorry to make it sad, but the last night I hung out with Jinky.
Wow.
Was that show. Wow. So Jinky was a friend of ours who passed away a few years ago, unfortunately. Really, really tragic. Anyway, yeah.
R.I.P. Jinky.
Man,
for
big
real.
time.
Yeah.
And and then we've gone to 1,000 shows together. But a lot of the artists that get a lot of play on my Spotify now are ones that I've discovered at shows. So that just, do you think, and I wondered if it's so, is touring, do you think maybe very good for exposure? Would the internet be better for exposure? What would you say as an artist?
I think a mix of both. Like, it's a time now where you can't leave any stone unturned.
Right.
Like, unless you have such a powerful brand that you do one thing and you're able to just funnel everybody, like you've blown up on TikTok, and like, you know, that which will lead into you getting like opening slots for like A-list artists. You have to kind of do both. So I say that to say, like, yeah, you gotta, social media, it's undeniable. Like, you have to have a social media presence or do something well. Right now, I feel like TikTok is the one that you need to do well. Only because just the algorithms have changed. Like, Instagram is only showing your content to like some people, unless you've passed that threshold and been consistent enough that you're getting exposed to more people. So TikTok, and this probably will change, but TikTok still will, if you have a video that's doing well, it'll expose it to people outside of your follower base or your friend circle or whatever. But so yeah, social media is one that you can't go without doing. And then like the live show, like I know a lot of artists that have achieved success without doing any live shows.
Got it.
But I guess it depends on what you're good at, right? Like for me, I find we're at Stay LA, like we're all really solid performers. So I can almost guarantee that everybody in a room is going to at least be curious, like what's his social media, and I'm going to retain that following. So yeah, you have to do both. Like you absolutely have to do both. But if there's one you could go without, I feel like the live experience is not doesn't hold the same weight that it used to.
Yeah.
I feel like it's coming back though.
Yeah.
Because I feel like a lot of things obviously, went on hiatus with COVID and all the lockdowns, especially here in Canada, because we had relentless, endless lockdowns, and obviously nobody could go to performances. Some people were, doing live stream type of stuff. I don't know if have you ever tried doing a live stream?
Lots.
Yeah.
Like during COVID, like that 2-year period, we did at least five live like talk show. Me and Tremaine were doing like a podcast type thing, and like we were interviewing artists. We did like we had a festival. Shout out to Tremaine for organizing it, called Mother was the panel part of it. And then with that, like North by Northeast and all the stuff that we would have done in like IRL, they had some sort of like online stream version, which they reached out to us to do, and we did. We definitely did. One thing I'm proud of is we definitely like did our thing with online, with streaming, while that was the thing to do. So, but yeah, I think you're right. Like it is coming back. Like I have. Like to your point, like there's a bunch of artists that I was only exposed to because they were openers on other shows. Like there was a guy who was I just went to see Don Tolliver, and he like brought out a guy that he didn't introduce or whatever, and I felt so like shitty about it because I really wanted to find out like who was that guy. Like he was performing his heart out, right? And I feel like the whole crowd felt like that as well. Like so it's there's no replacement for being convinced live because it's happening right there in front of you. So yeah,
there's also nothing like a live performance where somebody is literally singing their heart out right in front of you, and giving it their absolute all. And I find it, especially if they're like an up and comer, where it's like they cannot. So the one thing I remember learning when I was younger is that when you're an up and coming star, you cannot afford to make a mistake. Right? Whether it's in a live performance, like you can't miss a beat. You can't, your voice can't crack, right? You can't drink too much. And then once you are, successful and you have a large following and people are going to show up no matter what, that's when, shit really starts to hit the fan, right? Like with Nirvana, when, he would get really, really wasted and he was just smashing stuff on stage, right? And I was, okay, that's the end of the show, I guess, because there ain't no guitars left to continue to perform. Exactly. Unless they kept the spare in the back. I don't know. But yeah, that was one thing that I kind of learned. Like you cannot afford to fuck it up early on. You have to, everything needs to be perfect, and that's kind of part of being a perfectionist, I guess.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what it takes. Do you find it like really challenging sometimes to do music? Like I know it's not yet your full-time thing, but like what's the plan? Like what do you want to do? Do you want to make it like your full-time thing?
Yeah, 100%. And like we're blessed to continue growing. Like we've been at it like a good amount of time, right? Most people, like with this many years in, if you haven't made like $1 million yet, you might start thinking about like, okay,
packing it in.
When are we gonna? When are we gonna pack it in? But the success and the growth of the movement has steadily been on the incline in a way that it's like it would be stupid to stop now, because it's just continuing to grow. Support base is growing. The music is still getting better despite us all being veterans. But a focus, like I said before, we did a lot of live. We needed to improve on the online visibility front and just be more consistent, I feel like. But also, obviously for me to do it full time, I would have to make the money. And right now, like we are actively working with like agencies and publishing companies to do writing for sync. So like film, TV. That's where the money is right now for an independent artist. So like if you're not out here trying to compete with Drake or like, The Weeknd, you can still make a decent living if you get, 4 to 5 solid placements in a year. Because the money ranges from anywhere between like, I don't know, $5,000 to $50,000, depending on how popular the show is or how well known the movie is or whatever.
So that would be your song being placed into a movie or a TV show and then essentially giving you royalties.
Right. So you're licensing music that you've written for commercial TV or movies. And you got to think of it like that's an industry that hasn't been, decimated by the internet. People still will pay to go watch a movie, although it's less than it was in years past.
And even still, all movies and TV shows are all being streamed online now anyway. So it's the industry is really not, if anything, it's improving because people have more access to it.
Right.
Which is why, like, the comparison between The Weeknd and Michael Jackson,
it's different.
The online presence is there. It makes things more accessible. The only thing that might be a little bit more challenging is, with it being so accessible, is the algorithm being affected by so many people trying to get in there, right?
To hold that space.
Yeah, exactly. So trying to get yourself out there and get yourself noticed realistically, especially with things like YouTube, where it takes, you sometimes have to put up 50 to 100 videos or pieces of content or whatever, 100 different songs, and then finally that one gets like 100,000, 200,000. Then all of a sudden you have a following, right? So I don't know how much you focus on things like short video. So you were mentioning TikTok, but YouTube Shorts is actually a really good thing. If there's a way that you can kind of maybe, I don't know if you're already doing it, but the one thing that I'm noticing that a lot of other musicians or artists are doing, so you know who Harry Mack is?
Oh yeah,
right? Okay.
Yeah.
So like, his style, obviously that's his thing, where it's like he goes on Omegle and he tells people to pick 3 random songs, and then all of a sudden he comes up with a rap song. But if there's something specific that any musician or artist like yourself could do to make it engaging, where it's like, for example, we were talking about the Running Up the Hill song. There's that group Loveless, or guy, or whatever band or whatever he is, I don't even know. But he does like these little short videos where he's literally filming himself in front of the mic, and he's, okay guys, this is this song, and then he starts singing in front of the mic, and people like that, right? Because it's engaging, because they're like literally, when he's like moving the camera and whatnot, and it's fun to watch, right? And you can build a huge following out of that, like shorts, and this whole like 2-minute long kind of videos is like huge.
You're like in my brain.
Yeah.
Like that's literally what for me personally, like my social media direction now has changed to that. Like, where what we used to do was, write the song, go record the song, know in advance that it's a song that we want to release. And the way we release music is through a distributor. So they are the ones who get it onto all the platforms at once. Like, you can't just upload it. Like SoundCloud is a platform. SoundCloud, like Bandcamp,
it's its own platform.
You can just do it yourself, but like the rest, there's there's gatekeeping there. So it all goes through distributor, and then it comes out, and then you will hope with your fingers crossed that you land a playlist, or that you land like an editorial playlist for that platform, so that it gets maximum visibility. If you don't, it's not the end of the world, but you're not going to get as many streams as if you did.
Yeah.
The
Better
issue,
hope the search engine, the SEO, takes care of the rest.
100%. So the issue with that is, if it doesn't do well, it's like, how does my audience get exposed to this music, right? Without me just continuing to pump it on social media. So like, my angle now is like reverse engineering that. So we will write the music, record the music, and then instead of using the distributor to put it on Spotify, I will go straight to a YouTube Shorts or a TikTok or an Instagram with a video of myself rapping the lyrics with the lyrics on the bottom, so it's engaging.
Yeah.
Like Firewall. When I say Firewall, that would be the example. It's like, oh yeah, I really like this song. Like, there's something about this I like. We will gauge what to upload to the distributor by the response on social media. So I'm not gonna upload anything until I already have a group of people excited for it because it did well on social media.
Got it.
Which in turn means when I put out the pre-save campaign, or I put out like the teasers, I'm gonna get numbers on it, because there's already an audience waiting for this.
Yes.
So the pre-save campaign does well. Spotify or Apple Music editorial sees that it's doing well. It gets on the playlist. You do more streams than you would have if you just went straight. So that's the angle now. I'm giving away lots of games. So, but I think everybody should have it. Like, as an artist, you put time and effort, like we were talking about, into what you do. You got to be able to maneuver it so that it people hear it, like so that people can experience it.
Yeah.
But yeah,
what I like about your ideas and how you kind of have everything kind of almost scheduled and established is how I had the word in my head and I completely blanked on it, but how kind of organized, like how it's like, okay, this is what we got to do, then this, then this, then this, then this.
Process.
Like there's like a whole process, and it's like how well you actually understand the process because you've been doing it for years now.
Yeah.
And your fan base has been steadily growing, and it will probably continue to grow, and it's just how calculated you are. I think that was the word that I was looking for, is just how calculated, how you know exactly the things that you need to do, how to utilize social media to your advantage. And I feel like there's still a lot of people out there who don't know how to do that, right? Like you'll see these random rappers, and it's like they put one thing on YouTube and they think they're going to get 1 million views on it.
You're right.
Or they pay what's his name, No Jumper,
Adam 22.
Yeah, Adam 22 to post it, and they pay like $500 and they get like 10,000 views one time on it, and realistically it does nothing because he's doing it, for hundreds of different people, right? But the way it's kind of like your brain is operating almost as like a business, like you're just on a constant grind where it's like everything is so scheduled and calculated. It's like, we know we're going to get this out of this, we're going to do this and get this, we're going to do this and get this, and that's kind of like similar to what I do, right? It's like I know kind of more or less what I'm going to do,
what the steps are,
and what the steps are to actually get a certain result, which is good, which I think more people kind of need to do. Treat it more like a business rather than a hobby, right? So especially with you want to obviously go full time. You want this to be your career, and I can see it being your career, and you just kind of need that, that one extra stepping stone to kind of get yourself there. So it's nice to see that there's actually a whole group of people who are all working together, and it's very well organized and very calculated and well put together, and wishing the best for you. So
thanks, man.
Yeah.
Talking about Spotify, Apple Music, and that. So you're talking about putting the music out, the editorials. They go out to Spotify and Apple. I don't know if you want to get into it. Is the money that comes in from streams? So I used to back in the day, we used to buy CDs, we used to buy whatever vinyls and everything. These days I haven't bought music. I haven't bought music in years. Now all I'm doing is streaming Spotify. So is it worth it for the artist? Does just the amount of streams coming in, does it pay you? Is it worth? I suspect not. But what's it like? What's it like making money from streams?
You're not gonna survive off streams, for one, unless you're doing millions.
Yeah.
Even if you're doing millions,
At least in the tens of thousands is a start, right?
tens of thousands is at least like Subway change, like
Yeah.
But like it's really, it's almost like, for me personally, every artist is different, but for me personally, it's something that I actually put out of my mind as far as what's the return going to be financially. It depends on the platform. Like Tidal pays I feel like right now, somebody will correct me if I'm wrong, but Tidal pays the most per stream, but we're literally talking like fractions of cents, like per stream. So unless you're doing insane numbers, you're not going to see a sizable amount of income. So it's literally, for me anyways, these are promotional vehicles to use as metrics to solidify other opportunities that are more lucrative, whether it be like sync licensing like we're talking about before, or your live show, or like merchandise sales, or something else aside from the streams. And I think that's the conversation for most independent artists. Like, unless you're signed to a label and you have that global push, you're not seeing a lot of income from streams. So, and I understand it. Like, it sucks, yes, but you have to also understand how many songs get uploaded to these platforms every day. Like, it's bullshit that like these companies can afford to pay more than they do pay, but why would they if we're still going to upload our music? So you'll see a lot of artists right now saying, I'm not going to even upload to Spotify, Apple Music. I'm going to put a link to an email list so that all my fans can send me their email, and I'll send you the MP3 directly for this price, kind of thing. That's starting to happen, which I think is a shift that these companies don't want to happen, but it would require everyone to be on the same page as far as that goes for it to work.
Yeah.
Only time will tell what happens with that. But right now, no, streams is not it for sure. It's a promotional vehicle. It's, hey, I got this many streams. This is proof I'm a good artist. Let me make some money somewhere else.
It is a way, I guess, to pull in more of a following. I mean, provided that Spotify and Apple actually help you out and push your content out there a little bit, and maybe, you know, promote it to 10,000 people and like 1,000 people actually hit the follow button, for example, or the like button or whatever, and then all of a sudden they're getting recommended your music. So, and they find out who you are,
right,
which is great. But yeah, it's these algorithms, like you said, because there's so many people doing it, it's kind of diluted the market. Like even when I was starting out, like it was really hard to break through on YouTube because there was so many people kind of like, I was very focused on doing the abandoned stuff, and there was like a billion people filming abandoned things. So it's like, you know, you get 50 to 100 views, and then I was fortunate enough to get, you know, to break through and actually find my, you know, place in that community. And then I started doing haunted, and then it kind of branched off into other things and whatever. But that's just kind of the evolution of the way things go sometimes, where you start out doing one thing and you end up doing something maybe completely different, or something, you know, subtly different to what it is that you originally started with. But yeah, I guess when it comes to like streaming stuff, yeah, you gotta have pretty large numbers to really be able to make a dent. And I think that's why kind of like things like YouTube, for example, what I like about YouTube versus TikTok, and this should be the focus for a lot of people, and you'll see a lot of musicians starting to do this, where they'll kind of use that shorts to system to pull in the following, and then from there they get people into the long form content, which in your case would probably be like a music video. Maybe you can do like a live performance, and you know, you can get AdSense revenue. If you do a live performance for an hour, for example, you get the AdSense revenue. If people decide to donate or hit the thank you button or whatever and donate a couple of bucks each time you do a live performance, there's that too. So I think there are like different avenues that people can look at as musicians, as opposed to just, you know, banking on what Spotify is going to do and hoping that you get the 1 million, 2 million streams a month, kind of whatever it might end up being, right? So people kind of got to look at those avenues and kind of think outside the box, like what else can I do to kind of make money? Because I mean, at the end of the day, it's like the art is one thing, and it's like making the art is fantastic, but it's really hard to make the art when you can't pay the bills at the end of the day, 100%. Right? And people don't realize, like, you know, you got to eat, you're going to have a roof over your head, right? You got a car, you got to pay your car bills, you got to pay your insurance, like all that stuff. You're driving around town, you know, going to meetings and doing shows and whatever it might be, getting stuff to do shows or put videos together or whatever it might be. It's a lot. Studio time is obviously not cheap.
Like
right?
the most expensive thing is the studio time, for sure.
So,
music videos, like, it all costs.
So musicians, artists alike, I mean, gotta make money. It's very, very important. So, but yeah, that's cool. Is there any other things that you wanted to go over?
You gave me a couple notes that we wanted to talk about, which I'm excited about. Yeah. One of them, so okay, there's two in a row. If we can talk about living the montage. Yeah. And then I have another point after that. You said living in a studio. So if you want to go through, that.
Yeah, it's
what is living the montage?
Live the montage or living the montage. Like I was talking earlier, I think about Firewall, and I hesitated to say the word album or like project because again, I try to be like ahead of the game as much as possible. So I see like the terms we used to use for physical music kind of fading away. Like we call like an LP was called an LP because vinyl used to be considered a long play, right? Then it changed to CD because that's what the long plays were playing on. But we've held on to the old terminology for stuff, right? So like, I don't think the listener consumes music the same as they used to, right? As far as like an album, attention spans are shorter or whatever. There's no research to back this. This is just my what I think and what I've observed, right? Is like people don't sit down on a Friday evening and like take an album in top to bottom,
Right.
like they used to. We don't sit around in a group of like, hey, we're all Nirvana fans, like this is the new Nirvana project. We don't go to each other's house and listen to it like
Right.
top to bottom. Like we used to do that, right? So I just think as artists, we have to also evolve to the listeners. So like like you're saying, short form content, like that's how people are consuming stuff now more. Draw them in with the short form content, and then you'll have an ear for the longer form content. So I say that to say season 1, like the substance and abuse, that was me looking at how I packaged the EP or the mixtape or whatever, but like likening it to Netflix, because
Give them
at
an
that
idea.
time,
Give them an idea of how long ago that was.
this is like 2017.
Yeah.
But like Netflix is a commonly accepted thing that people are paying memberships for, and they're consuming things in this way. Season 1, episode, whatever. Like everything has that. Or if you were downloading torrents, or if you were whatever, you're used to seeing things like that and following it through that format. So I was like, why don't I do that with the music? So instead of just an album and then it's track 1, 2, 3, it's here's the album, but every song comes out 2 weeks apart from the last, and they're called season 1, episode 1, season 1, episode 2, 3, so on. So that if you became aware of me on episode 3, you're going to want to go back and what was episode 1 and 2, right? Versus if they were just song titles, like you might not care about the other 2. So that was then in 2017. But right now where I'm at, I feel like, again, the traditional LP or album or mixtape or whatever you want to call it, or project, is also changing. So in my eyes, campaign is the next thing. Like what's my vision? What's my belief? What do I want people to rally behind me about? What's the theme?
Okay.
So live the montage. I say all that to say live the montage is the theme of everything that I'm about to do from this point going forward. And why live the montage? We were talking earlier. So a montage, like we're used to seeing montages in movies. You have the visual of like of Rocky running up the steps, doing the thing after he's been training, after he's been getting his ass kicked, after he's been doing all this stuff. Batman, you name it. Anything that has a hero, there's a scene in there in that movie, if it's a good movie, where they're faced with adversity and they make a decision to do a series of things that we see in like a 2-second or 2-minute span of visual, a montage.
Right.
So live the montage or live your montage is my way of promoting or saying, what are the things that would be in my personal life's montage that would get me from where I'm at now to where I ultimately want to be when I'm the hero? But people need to be reminded that you have to live that montage. It's not going to happen in 2 minutes. You have to live each of those parts. That when Rocky's running up the steps and he puts his hand up, he did a 10-mile run before that.
Yeah.
You don't just get to run up the steps. You know what I mean? So live the montage is the energy of the campaign for my next run of music. People need to believe in themselves, believe they are deserving of becoming what they see themselves as, deserving of achieving their goals, achieving success. But the way to do it is to literally live the montage. In my montage, I'm sitting here with Moshi and Angelo talking on a podcast about this. I'm living the montage right now. You're living your individual montages right now. So that's what live the montage represents. What are the things in your life that you see in your montage from where you are today to where you want to be? And are you at this moment living it?
Nice.
So if I were to put that in album form, that would be the name of the album. But it's not an album. It could be a series of albums in a campaign, a series of EPs in a campaign with the same overarching theme of live the montage.
That's cool.
Which leads me into why I live in a studio right now. So Stale 8 Studios, a little promo. We got a production studio. It's at Islington and Lakeshore. If you produce, you make beats, you're an artist, songwriter, whatever the case may be, It's just a space that you can rent it out, have time to yourself. If you make music in a condo and there's neighbors and you can't make music past a certain time or whatever the case may be, or you just don't have a setup where, you know, some people make their beats and stuff on just a laptop with just headphones. And like at some point you're going to need to take that to a bigger setup so that it's ready to compete with the industry. So we have a space that we were lucky enough to get, or I was lucky enough to get. But part of my montage is, how do I lock myself into putting the necessary hours in and being consistent enough to get to where I want to get in the time I want to see it happen? And the answer to that was literally wake up, go to the gym and shower at the gym because no showers here. Come back. If I'm working, I can do my work from home. But as soon as I'm done, I'm in a studio. I'm writing music. I'm recording music. I'm sharpening my sword with production, sharpening my sword with marketing, promotion. Everything I need is there, which is literally what I'm actively doing right now at this moment. It's a lot cheaper, obviously. Living downtown Toronto is expensive as fuck.
Oh yeah.
But just not for that reason, because, you know, I could have decided to get a cozier space, or apartment or condo or whatever. But I decided, like, this is something that personally I'm okay doing, and it makes me happy, makes me comfortable, and keeps me as productive as I need to, because I don't have a choice. Like, there's literally not a parking lot. I park on the street. So parking authority comes at 7:00 every morning to ticket every car that's parked on the street. So I have to wake up before 7 every single day. And if I'm already awake and I already moved the car, there's sometimes I'm so tired, I'm like, I'm gonna move the car, and then I'm gonna move the car to the school parking lot down the street, walk back, and then just go back to sleep. But by the time I'm finished that walk, I'm up.
Yeah.
Get started.
Might as well just start your day.
Wow. The grind.
Go to the gym, box, do all the things that you see me doing on social media on a daily basis until we get to where we got to be. That's the montage.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That is a montage. Absolutely.
yeah, 100%. But yeah, so that's basically what that is.
You're very inspiring, man.
Gotta be. That's purpose. I tattooed purpose on my head so that I don't forget, you know. And that's really what I want to do with my music ultimately, is inspire everyone who listens to my music, whatever the content may be, to do, if you really care, if you really want it, if you really care about it, you might not, and not everybody has to, but if you really do, this is what you have to do.
Damn.
I need everybody to understand that and to use me as an example. I want to use myself as an example to prove that. So when we get there, I'll be able to be like, montage. Yeah. You know?
Sick.
Watch it back.
Wow.
Makes a lot of sense. I feel like I'm in a montage. I go up the mountain sometimes. I go to the desert. I'm living in a montage. Right now I'm here.
Right.
I'm back and forth and just all over the freaking place.
And look at this. Like, look at this setup. You know what I mean? Like, it's brilliant, you know?
It's not bad. It's I had a vision, and I knew what I wanted to pull off here, and just hang out, have good conversations, and create content that people could enjoy. Just, you know, having a conversation as if people are right here with us, right? And that's kind of the purpose to this whole thing. I was going to ask you something else, and I completely blanked. So first of all, I went and grabbed a beer. I may have walked in front of one of the cameras, not even thinking about it, that it was even there. Because it doesn't. When you're sitting in this room, it doesn't even feel like there's cameras
being recorded.
Right? It literally just feels like we're all just having a conversation.
In the beginning, I was conscious of like, you know, we're recording and like, but it kind of like it disappears somehow.
Yeah,
it just becomes like a good conversation between people, right? Yeah,
amazing.
So, and onto that, I went and grabbed a beer, and this is what happened to it. Half of it is currently on the floor right now because I forgot it in the freezer for like the last couple of hours, and it's basically just exploding. And I just put that back. So apart from music, what else are you doing right now? So you are actually working a job?
Yeah. So we were talking about doing music full time. I'm also like blessed and privileged enough. I feel like most artists are working a job that they hate, or like, they're like, I can't. I hate my boss.
You know,
Like, yeah,
working
you know
at
what I mean?
Shoppers Drug Mart like Drake, right?
Right. Like doing some shit where if somebody's gonna piss them off, and they're gonna like throw an apron and like walk out or something like that. But I'm lucky enough that I'm not too worried about people knowing about it, although I should be a little bit careful because of the nature of the job.
Yeah. You don't got to go into too much detail, but just kind of brush.
The level of so the level I'm at in this field, I don't need to hide my identity as much as I might have in years prior. But loss prevention national manager for Canada for a retailer, which I won't name, but essentially like at the entry level in this career, you're catching shoplifters stealing it from stores. So
does that include being like a secret?
You're playing close.
Shopper?
Yeah, you're playing close. I'm essentially James Bond, like using camera, using like different techniques that you learn over time to catch shoplifters is like I would say like the main part of it, but there's so many other things. There's like inventory control and other stuff that's not exciting enough to talk about on a podcast. The catching shoplifter part is probably like 30%. But in doing that, like I got into it just by doing security because again, starving artist in the beginning, went to university, needed something that was kind of like low intensity and not too heavy on my brain to do as a job to be able to survive. So security is the path that led me into being a mall security person, to doing like plainclothes floor walking, to essentially being a manager of the floor walkers or investigators or agents as we call them, to just doing really well at it and being like now a national. So I get to fly across Canada. Like you were talking about Seattle, Portland, I was just there for that. And like Calgary, BC, Montreal, Quebec, all over the GTA. Just teaching people how to do the floor walking part. So before, if I was the floor walker, I wouldn't want to say that on YouTube because somebody might recognize me and be like, yo, you're
that
not you. The Canadian legal system, and I've had this conversation with people like before that, obviously like it shouldn't be this way, but obviously in hip hop there's association with like crime for whatever reason. So you would think that for me, I wouldn't do something in that field. Like I don't know if you see what I'm trying to say, but like, or like if I feel bad, like catching a shoplifter, because these people ultimately are arrested and the police are involved and stuff like that. But the Canadian legal system is so lax that shoplifters, like, it's not taken super serious. So at the very worst, when somebody gets caught shoplifting, they're just going to have a bad day waiting, like a couple of hours for cops to come. Or if they're a kid, their parents might find out if they're over 18, if they're under 18, sorry. But it's afforded me the opportunity, like in my come up, to have like crazy conversations with some people that like have done like crazy stuff, or are like drug addicts, or like are going through like something really tough in their life.
Then in an act of desperation, they're just making the wrong call and
just trying to get some money or trying to do whatever it is. So I took it upon myself. There are people in this industry that want to be cops, for example. And then when I say cop, I don't mean police officer. There's two different things in my eyes. A cop is somebody who, in my head, like, is abusing their authority or has ego issues, or, you know, treats people disrespectfully or feels like they're better than who they deal with. A police officer is like the protect and serve, like what it's supposed to be in my head. So there are a lot of people that do loss prevention that want to be cops.
Power trip.
Yeah, absolutely. Like a shoplifter gets caught and they're like, you piece of shit, like you're a dirty, you know, just again, like taking advantage of a person's situation for their own ego. So I made it a point that like anybody who's in that position, I have a conversation with them, figure out what they're going through in life, give them an opportunity to just be open, honest, and real with me about what's happening, so that, you know, I'm not in a position to judge anyone. But if I can offer advice, like if it's somebody younger, I will, and I'll say like, hey, you know what, you know, like tell me what you're going through, and then give them something to after that day maybe help change their life, like, or make them think in a different way. You know what I mean? Because there was times in my own life when I was, you know, like misguided or hanging around the wrong people or involved in shit that I shouldn't have been, that could have got me in a really serious trouble. Like, and luckily I had people around me that steered me in a different direction. So I feel like if everybody who's going that direction that I come across, I would like to be that person. Everybody I train to do it, I train them to do it in that way as well too. So the effect is positive at the end.
Nice.
So I have people that in my beginning of my career that we've arrested, and they follow me on Instagram now and we talk and shit. Because
That's wild.
yeah, because like we actually know each other. People that if they see me on the street, they're not gonna turn the other way. They're gonna be like, oh, yo, what up? How's everything? And I'll be like, yo, how's everything? Like, did everything get cleared up? Like, you're all good? Yeah, I'm good.
Wow.
You know,
You're a force for good, man.
100%, man. We need
That's
heroes.
sick.
We need heroes.
I feel like that too, because a lot of people, I've mentioned this so many times before, especially when it comes to things like politics, is that people can't have an open conversation without yelling at each other in their face, right? Like, no, you're wrong, you're an idiot, right? Like, it doesn't, that's not the way things should be. I mean, okay, but some people realistically, you know, are just absolute idiots and do need to be yelled at in their face. Yeah, they need to be cussed out. But and same thing with, like, you know, certain types of shoplifters who are just inherently evil people who are just gonna keep doing, no matter what you do or whatever chances you give this person, they're just gonna keep doing the same thing. Just like a dirty politician who you keep giving them chances and they keep doing the same thing over and over. Trudeau. But that's just kind of the way it is, right? But what I like is giving people the benefit of a doubt and having that dialogue with somebody to kind of figure things out, like figure out what's going on in their life, figure out what's going on in their head. Because I mean, right now times are rough, especially. So, you know, there are some people who are going to be resorting to, not that I would condone it at all. Don't steal from people because it's just bad, right? I understand times are rough, but there are ways that you can get through things. And if they do end up doing it, people make mistakes. Obviously, we're all human beings. Find a way to work through it. Like what you're saying, you know, have a conversation and try and kind of, you know, turn people's lives around, figure out what's going on and see if there's a certain direction that you can help lead a person in to actually, you know, get off of that path. Right. So I kind of feel you what you're saying with that.
And on a lighter note too, like doing this job, I got like crazy like Thanksgivings and like Christmases, like everyone is like, all right, cool, tell us more like LP stories. Like we want to hear about the crazy thing that happened. Like we've had
just
so
gonna ask
many
you to
crazy
tell me.
things happen. Like I can be only so detailed, but like anything from like I've been damn near kidnapped before, which is nothing that's fun, but like trying to recover merchandise from a lady's car who had just stolen. It took some time to confirm if that actually happened, and by the time we confirmed, she was already in the car. If any of my old bosses are listening, just plug your ears, because this would have all been stuff we're not advised for us to do. But like tried to reach in to grab the merchandise. She started driving, and
oh boy,
I'm in the passenger seat, like half of my body, like my upper body, like in the car, but like running like the Flintstones, because the car's moving. And then I got to make the decision, like, do I like do a Tom Cruise roll out and maybe potentially get ran over
so
by the back?
You're like half in the car at this point?
Right. Or I do the, at that time, what I thought was a safer bet and just get in. You know what I mean? So like I got in and then like close the door and we're yelling at each other and she's like, I'm gonna call 911. I'm like, I'm gonna call 911. I'm gonna call 911. And we're on the 427 going south all of a sudden, and my partner's calling me like, yo, what the, my partner had just watched this from like the entrance and sees me get into a car of like,
Yo.
luckily, you know, when I got the cops on the phone, it was on speaker and they're like, hey, police, fire, ambulance. I'm like, police. I think it clicked in her mind, like, what the hell am I gonna do with, like, where am I gonna take this guy?
Yeah.
Like, what am I doing? And she exited, drove us back to the store, walked back into the store with me.
Nice.
And then we had one of those conversations. But like stuff like that, like chasing people onto the subway platform, wrestling them on the subway platform. One guy, like, we couldn't confirm he took anything, so he went on the train. We went on the train. Obviously, there's no signal, so we couldn't communicate with the people back at the store who could see the footage. So we, like, by the time we caught this guy, we were closer to another location than our own, because we took the train that far, but made the arrest at the pawn shop that he
No way.
Yeah, we were following him down street to street to street, saying, "Oh yeah, should we turn back? Should we turn back? Should we turn back?" Now one more street, one more street, one more street, until a guy walks into the pawn shop, puts the backpack on the table, and takes out the jeans that we suspected he had taken. And then we look at each other and like burst in there like FBI, like, "You're under arrest." But yeah, had to take him back to the other location. And the rules were so lax then, like that's what we got in trouble for. Not going that far, but involving the other store, because they ended up telling a regional like, "Hey, yeah, your guys were over here like arresting some dude," and like they had to use our computers and whatnot, and we got in trouble for it. But yeah, fun times, a lot of fun times.
Sounds like it.
I've dealt with like fraud money, like
fake cash.
Fake cash. I can spot fake bills,
Nice.
any current, well, U.S. or Canadian currency. I can tell the difference. Internal theft, like I'm trained to like interview a person and like read body language and all of that to be able to tell if they're lying or not. Like
That's so cool.
yeah, like a lot of stuff like that. It's made like a lot of my relationships complicated.
Yeah.
You're lying.
Yeah,
I
so I
can
try
tell.
to like turn that off.
Yeah.
But yeah. So yeah, I'd say that to say like I'm blessed as well. Like as much as I'm going to take this music thing all the way, I'm just happy as well. Like I have a good job that pays me well enough to survive, to pay the bills that I need to pay. I work with awesome people, and I get to find some self-worth in doing it, and see that effect blossom with everybody that I come into contact with doing the job. So that's why I wanted to talk about it here, because a lot of people would just not talk about that. But like I'm very much in my life like been like a shy guy where I'm not open about a lot of things, or I don't talk a lot. But when you do that, then it becomes hard to communicate because you're hiding a lot, or like you're keeping a lot in. So like that's something I make a conscious effort to do, is tell everything so that I can just feel free to be myself. And my story is a real story. I've had experiences not a lot of other people have had on both sides of the law that people can speak to having with my life experience, which is why I know like the question you asked, like what separates me is literally that life experience. The first mixtape was called Substance and Abuse for that reason. It's a juxtaposition that I live day to day, like substance and abuse, not substance abuse, but substance and abuse. There's two sides to this coin, to this guy, to this thing. Yeah. I don't even know where we started with that, but
I don't even know anymore. But you mentioned you went to Seattle, Portland, and where in California did you go?
So last time we went to California was Venice Beach, where we stayed.
Okay.
The time before that, North Hollywood. I just love the West Coast, man. It's like obviously
vibe.
It's a way different vibe. Obviously, I love Toronto. You know, born and raised and all of that. So I can't not love it. It's where I'm from, where we're from. But like the first time I think I went to LA, I just loved LA, and I just loved the California vibe. Obviously the weather. But I think I was truly like converted. First time I went to Calgary, I went to Banff and I saw actual mountains for the first time.
Yeah.
Like, yo, what? Like my first thoughts were like, I have to like bring my parents here one day. Like I don't want.
Right behind me, right?
Yeah,
There you go. You
I've
got
been looking
Moraine
at that.
Lake.
Yeah. I walked on that. Like when it was frozen. You know? I don't want like people around me. I don't want anybody to like not be here anymore and have not experienced that experience. You know what I mean? And like which is why I'm grateful for the job, because I probably would have never gone. Calgary for me is a place I might never have gone if I didn't have to, for a reason. So like now that I've seen that, I want to go everywhere in the world that has mountains, because I've just fallen in love with it.
There's a lot of places that have mountains.
So many places that have mountains. It's overwhelming now, because I'm like, this list is getting longer and longer. But Switzerland's next for sure.
Nice.
But yeah, the West Coast in general gives me that vibe, because it's like everything that I love about the East Coast and the cities with the backdrop of mountains, you know. So this anytime I'm there, I feel at peace. If you're having a rough day, it's a rough day. plus mountains.
Yeah.
and sun,
Did you
know?
get a chance to go to Lake Louise?
I went to Lake Louise. I walked on Lake Louise too.
Oh, you went during the winter.
Yeah,
Ooh,
everything's
man,
frozen.
that's-
It's different. So I gotta
that's
go
cold.
again in the summer,
Yeah.
and it was like up the Jasper
Okay. Yeah.
way. Like it was a little. Everything was frozen, but then lower down. I think Moraine. Sorry, it's Lake Louise. I walked on.
Okay.
Moraine wasn't frozen at that
Oh,
time,
okay.
so I went at a good time where I could still see it like
Yeah.
this.
Because Marine is kind of like in a different.
It's a little bit
spot.
more
It's not
south.
too far from Lake Louise. It's like
It's
relatively
like 20 minutes.
close. Yeah.
yeah, 20
By
minutes.
driving,
Yeah.
by you could actually hike there. It's like an hour and a half or something like that.
Mhm.
So from like Lake Louise, like the actual village area, all the way into Moraine, but it gets cold over there. Let me tell you, because I know people who live there. Our friend Shad literally just moved there. I saw him like a
Did he?
week ago.
Yeah.
Wow.
he moved there.
Yeah.
I went
Shout
to
out
go
to
see
Shad.
him. But I know people who've been living there for a few years, and it's very different. Like Calgary, what I like about Calgary for one is that it's quiet, right? People are very chill, like very just like relaxed, polite. There's no real traffic. It's just kind of virtually non-existent. Like even downtown in rush hour, it just doesn't really exist. Like even so, I went during the Stampede. It was I think it was the first or second day of the Stampede this year, and there was some traffic, but honestly, like in comparison to as if you were to drive to the X here in Toronto, nothing. It didn't exist. It was just
Wow.
it was easy. Like things were moving, right? Like we took an Uber from Airdrie into Calgary, and things were moving the whole way through. A lot of people at the Stampede, so you knew a lot of people drove in, but it was like really whatever. And people are just, for the most part, very polite. It's the air is just so much cleaner because it's Calgary. It's a city, but it's like a small city, just kind of in the middle of nowhere, just like in this arid place. And yeah, I don't know. I really, really kind of digged it over there. And then, like you said, you had Banff. So what we did was we drove into Lake Louise and hung out there for a little bit. My friend actually ended up proposing to his longtime girlfriend.
Nice.
Right at Lake Louise, like on these rocks, which was really funny. And then after that, we ended up driving another 8.5 hours into Vancouver, which is like the most epic drive ever because there's tons of lakes and mountains like you're literally like the whole highway is basically
the
through
Rockies
mountains.
go through
Yeah. So
like
it's
BC,
like
Alberta, right?
exactly.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, no, actually there's two sets of mountains. So you got the white caps on the left side, which is all BC, like if you're looking
Right.
at Whistler and all that stuff, that's all a different set of mountain range. And then there's another mountain range that basically goes through like the eastern part of BC into like Alberta, and then like kind of down into like Colorado and stuff like that, Montana, Colorado, that kind of thing. So the whole drive is literally just a highway through the mountain, and like the weather super weird. So like 1 minute it's like 15 degrees Celsius, then the next minute it's back to like 30, and then it drops to like 20, and then back to 30, and this is all happening within like 3 to 4 minutes at a time. So it's like crazy because you're going up the mountain, down the mountain,
you're
up the
the
mountain. Yeah,
elevation.
yeah, and then there's water and all that stuff. And then all of a sudden it's raining, and then all of a sudden you drive another like 25 minutes, and there's like full on sun, and it's
Wow.
like, what is going on here? This is just, it's crazy. It's a whole different vibe. But yeah, West Coast is just like, it's very different. A lot of people that I know, like who've been to like California, it's beautiful, it's amazing. Like obviously, like you said, the weather is fantastic. Unfortunately, I just know that the crime is a little rough, and it's beginning to be the same thing in Vancouver. There's a whole area called Hastings.
East
and
Hastings.
right, and we
Yeah.
drove up the street, and it was like 12 blocks of just almost like tents. I don't think people can actually set up tents anymore, so I think they kind of
They
got
cleared
rid of
it
that.
out like a month ago or something like that. Or
Yeah.
maybe 2 or 3 months ago. I feel
they didn't clear out shit.
They did a blitz. It's still
a
there.
tent. The tents they cleared out, so you
Got
can't
you.
set up tents anymore.
Right.
But everybody's still there.
Got
So there's
it.
literally 12 blocks worth of people, and like a lot of them are like they're strung out. There's people like they're passed out. There's people like just, I don't know, tweaking and doing all sorts of crazy things, and it's just like, whoa, what is going on here? It's apparently, from what I heard, it's kind of like a sanctuary area where they've just kind of put them all into one spot. And they're like, yeah, come here, you could live in this one 12 block area and then just did nothing for them, nothing to actually help them. I don't know what the hell is going on,
which
out
is
there,
crazy because they come here and like chill here, but they don't have a tent. Like,
that's another. Yeah, it's kind of like looking at LA too, right? Like if you look at what's referred to as Skid Row, I mean they can have tents and whatever there, but it's the same thing. Like in California, they constantly told people, just send all your people who are have drug problems and whatever it might be, send them all here to LA, and they can all live here, and we'll help them, and then they all end up there, and obviously they don't do anything about it. And it's just like, what the fuck are you like why would you want a huge concentrate of people who are all strung out and have all these issues, right? And then you got these kids coming off of school buses, and you got to have like security for them. It's it's mental. It doesn't make any sense,
and it's dangerous for them too.
Exactly.
Like
exactly.
Yeah, it's Seattle was like that too. It's 4th Street.
Yeah,
or third.
I think
or 4th.
all those areas are kind of starting to get like that, right?
Portland had one like that too.
Yeah.
Toronto, I was trying to think about that. If Toronto has
there's pockets,
a strip, but I think it's all pockets. Yeah,
it's like little pockets.
Pockets
kind
almost
of.
in every area has a pocket, but that's it.
Right. If you know where to look, you'll find it. Right. If you go, they're usually kind of close to where the shelters are, because the shelters close during the day, obviously to clean up and reorganize, and then everybody disperses, and then by evening time they all end up coming back. But during the day they have to have somewhere to go,
right.
And then the problem is all these places fill up so quickly that a lot of these homeless people basically end up, they line up and then they can't get in, and then that night they just end up sleeping on the street somewhere, right? So I mean, we see it if you walk the streets of Toronto. We've seen it all the time, right? Whether you're oblivious to it or not, it's there, it's happening, right? And it's just kind of getting worse and worse and worse, right? But I'm finding like there's these certain areas on the West Coast that it's just bad, right? And then plus they keep changing the laws, and they keep allowing more people to come in, or they keep changing the laws that allow crime to no longer be viewed as crime, right? Whereas like, oh, we're no longer going to start arresting people for theft of $1,000, for example. And then you have people literally showing up, making your life difficult as a loss prevention person. I mean, it gives you a job at the end of the day.
100%.
But
I tell everybody that, and they think I'm joking. I'm like, yo,
sure, bring it on.
I see them and they're
right?
like, yeah, they think I want to hear this.
Yeah,
so they're like,
yeah.
yeah, fuck these people. Like, yeah, they're such a pain in the ass. I'm like, hey,
Thanks for
I have a job
paying the bills, bro.
Like, yeah. There's a need for me because they're there.
Yeah, exactly.
And more than just giving you a job, it gives you an opportunity to help somebody.
Yeah.
The way you've done it,
1,000%.
the way you've set it up, the way you are training people, you are absolutely a force for good. And it's because of the way you are, the soul that you have, the brain that you have, the heart that you have turned that into a very large force for good, which is really cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I get the sentiment and like, making the law about the the theft for under $1,000 or whatever the hell it is in California, but it's like at the end of the day, it's like you're just creating more problems, because you're going like, okay, like we said, we have those people who obviously are making a mistake, whether they do it one time. But what's happening now is we're getting a lot of these repeat offenders, and you're probably noticing it all the time.
Tons.
You're getting the same people.
Yeah.
It's like you've given them the
We know
talk.
them by name.
Exactly.
They know us.
Yeah,
by
and
name.
And you've given them
yeah.
the talk 3 times, and you know that they're never gonna change because they got a problem. They're inherently, evil or whatever the hell it might be, and it's just like there's nothing you can really do about these people. But at the end of the day, it gives you a freaking job to do, right? I mean, it is what it is, I suppose. I don't know, but.
So what other kind of experiences have you accumulated in travel? Maybe outside of the job. I think I mentioned this at the beginning, we went to Japan together, which is super cool for our buddy
Best
Andrew.
time ever.
Best trip I've ever taken.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It got to the top of the list so quick. Japan is just, it's so hard to describe. Like, I wish we were there longer. Obviously,
man.
I think everybody who's been there will say that.
Yeah.
For me, it was 3 weeks. I think I went 2 weeks before the wedding.
Yeah.
So I got to just do some like solo traversing during that time. I went to like Akihabara, saw like the anime shit, like saw like the comic stuff, like all the stereotypical stuff.
That's
and then like got to
Mecca for us.
The Mecca. Mecca is where we want to be. But yeah, went there first. Was fortunate enough to be able to go to Mount Fuji. And I think our trip, just to preface for the audience, like this is what, March 2020?
Yeah,
2020.
Yes.
Yep.
March 2020. So COVID is like
Well, you left early, so if you left around what, like the 8th,
yeah,
something like that.
I think it was like around
Yeah.
the 8th.
And then about a week and a half after is when everybody here went into lockdown.
Lockdown. Yeah.
So and
Yeah,
there was
the day. Do you remember this? The day that we
Yeah.
were in the airport waiting to get on our flight was the day Trudeau was on TV. He was like, "Yeah, no, you're not coming back. Everybody, if you're a Canadian, come home now. We're closing the borders later." Yeah.
I remember being at a hostel, and it was not a hostel, a capsule hotel that had like free beer in the lobby after a certain time or whatever. So like everybody who was in the hotel will like congregate there, and that's like how we met a bunch of like random people. And like literally, one of the girls was like crying because she just got off the phone with her parents, and her parents are like in London, like they're saying come the F home now. And like she had to decide, like she's having a great time with us, like, you know, having an experience of a lifetime, like
was
in
she
Japan.
like part of our group?
She wasn't part of our group, but she was part
she
of
was in
that
the group.
the capsule hotel.
Oh, okay.
Millennials,
Just a random traveler.
yeah. It's called Millennials, I think.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, traveler, because there was a guy from there's a guy from Germany. There's a guy from, I want to say Poland. I don't think it was Poland, but anyways, there's a bunch of different people from different places. But yeah, like she was literally having that conversation, like, if you don't come home now, we're gonna disown you, type of thing. Like, so this is like some real shit happening while we were there. But also like our experience, I think, is unique to that time, because I don't think anyone who's gone has had that specific like experience as far as like lineups or like waiting for things, or like everybody feeling weird about like someone coughing on a train, or like that time was really interesting. Like I think I'm still gonna reflect on that time in years in the future and be like, man, that's crazy that we went through that. Like that's stories to tell the grandkids. But it's beautiful. I got to see Mount Fuji. I was one of like 4 people in that hotel, like because they just didn't have the people there. Got to obviously experience like Shibuya, Harajuku, Shinjuku, like all of that. Like it was just a culture shock in the best way possible. Yeah, it's culture electrified, you know. Like
yeah,
I really had a good time on that trip, and I can't wait to go back.
Oh
Yeah, I've been looking forward to going back. I've been trying to make a plan, but people keep bailing.
You guys went to Kyoto, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I
a
didn't get
few
to
days.
go.
You didn't go to
Yeah,
Kyoto?
no, I didn't go.
Oh man, that place was amazing.
That
It
was
just-
the best spot for us for the Torii gates. You know, the orange.
right.
Yeah, that was the Andrew made sure to. He's like, we can do this or this today, and I was like, I didn't know what it was at the time. I was just like, it was really stupid, right? But I was like, which one will I be able to take the best pictures of so I can send back to my wife, right? And she said, he said, let's do this because this is where the Torii gates are. That was the day that we climbed that mountain for like 2 hours.
Yeah.
And it was absolutely the absolute best. It was so cool.
Let me tell you, the pictures came out really good, and I still show people those pictures to this day, and just like, look at all these gates.
Yeah.
And then you explain to them that it was what is it? Every family that donates, they get their own gate with their their name or whatever put on it, right? I feel like I'm super smart explaining to people like, yeah, I've been to Japan and I learned all this cool stuff, and Kyoto is the ancient city and it didn't get destroyed in World War II and whatever. And I went to the A-bomb building in Hiroshima, and you know, this, I explain all the information to them, and it was a really, really unique trip, right? So
it's hard to talk about because like anytime I bring it up, it's like people around me are like, so yeah, that's a subtle flex. You went to Japan, and I'm like, yo, I just want to tell you, like, this shit was amazing.
It was so cool. Like anybody could go to Japan. Like I think everybody's got to experience something like that in their life. But it's just like going anywhere, right? So anybody who's ever gone to South Korea or Australia or anywhere really, or like Orlando, right? They're gonna flex and talk about their experience. It's a fun thing to do. Traveling is fun. Seeing new things, experiencing new cultures, foods, things like that. So there ain't nothing wrong with it. It's just for me, it's literally part of my lifestyle. That's all I do is travel.
Go different places.
Yeah, exactly. So, what was like your most memorable thing in Japan? Like for you, that you like topped everything that you
aside
did?
from the wedding, there's two things, because we wanted to have like the red light district experience, like not the full experience, but like I'm pretty sure there was a roofie attempt on us for sure.
Really?
Yeah, which for me, like, it might be a little bit twisted, but I'm glad that happened. Like, it's a story to tell. You know what I mean? But yeah, we and one of the other guys went to Kabukicho just looking for trouble, essentially. Not trouble, but like, just you want to see, you know, what you heard.
You want to see what the hell this place
Yeah, I
is all
went into
about.
one of these bars and they had like a bunch of.
Can I just ask, is this one of those areas? So we walked through Tokyo a lot.
I think it's
and
about
it's
the same area.
the same street where the guys are coming to you to say, hey, come into my bar.
come there.
And they're all,
Yeah,
they're all
exactly.
foreigners,
Andrew was like,
right?
don't
Yeah.
go there. Like,
Yeah.
when the sun goes, don't go there. I was
Yeah.
like, all right,
Yeah.
cool.
All right,
Mental
thanks,
note.
Andrew. Okay, tomorrow we're
First
going there.
place we went. Yeah.
And they're all like there was a bunch of African people I think working.
Yeah,
And
there's
a
they
couple other
got a lot of like Nigerian transplants and
Yeah.
like West African transplants
Yeah.
there who live in Japan, and they I think he explained it to me once why they go there specifically, but yeah, they're all like trying to promote whatever bar, and what the servers or hostesses will do is like prey on tourists essentially,
Yeah.
and like get them wasted enough to like rinse their credit cards. So luckily for us that it didn't happen, but they tried. They definitely tried.
So you were just like, hell yeah,
they
I'm gonna come in with
they
you.
bring drinks out and they're like, yeah, take this shot with us. Like, come,
Because
let me.
what is it? They chart so they like make up some fee or something, but you don't
That they
know
don't
about
tell
the
you.
fee
Yeah.
until after you're
Yeah, they're not
ready
gonna
to
tell
leave.
you, right?
Yeah,
But
and
you're already
then-
wasted by this
Yeah.
time. So like, the average person is gonna be like, okay, cool, and you're gonna try to like argue with them about it. Then they bring out like a guy who's intimidating, and they say like, hey man, no, if you don't, then this guy's gonna. Then they start threatening you, and they say, okay, we're gonna walk you to the nearest ATM. Okay, well, let's use your credit card. Give me whatever you have. Like that's.
Got it.
I read about all this well in advance of it, so I already know the flex, right?
Yeah.
And it's the same. Like I was in Turkey last year or the year before. Same thing. Like a guy who's dressed really well was like, hey, where you from, man? Oh man, I really like that shirt, man. Oh, that's a PlayStation hat. Like, oh whoa, that's really dope. Like, what do you do? Like, and then strike up a conversation, and then just try to play it and be like, oh yeah, like you married, like you single, like you looking for girls, like you know what I mean? And like that's how like a single male who goes out to like have that experience gets roped in, and then they'll take advantage. But luckily we already knew what to expect, so it was, for me, as twisted as it sounds, cool to see that. Oh yeah. nice try. And like we left with only a certain amount of cash, like for that night specifically. No credit cards, no wallets, no nothing.
Nice.
And like, yeah, I noticed myself getting like, at that time my alcohol tolerance was pretty high, I would say. And I noticed myself feeling a little bit like I didn't drink that much, right? And like my buddy who was there at the same time was like, yeah, I think it's starting to get weird. And we just left money and booked it out of there.
Right.
But yeah, Japan is sick.
Especially if you want to visit the red light district.
Absolutely.
That's not the first time I've done like a red light district either. I did the first one I ever did was in Frankfurt, and it was actually on a layover. So I was with Daniel when we were coming back, and so what happened was we got to, well, we're in Poland. I looked at the return flight back from Poland to get back home, and I noticed that the time was 5 minutes to board the plane, I think, before 5 minutes before the landing time of the previous plane. I'm like, how is that possible? How am I supposed to make it in negative time to the other plane? And then I realized one was AM one was PM and one was AM. I'm like, oh shit, we got 12 hours. We got 12 hours in Frankfurt. What do we do? We're like, whatever, we'll figure it out. So we ended up, I think we made it to Munich. And then in Munich, we met some guy who lives in Frankfurt. He travels back and forth every single day for work by plane, which is just insane. I would not do that. But he's like, yeah, I'll take you through the subway station or the train station or whatever and bring you down to the downtown area. And then, you can go wherever you want from there. So we ended up downtown Frankfurt. And let me tell you, the red light district in Frankfurt is a whole different experience from what it is in Japan, because it's like club, strip club, brothel, club, strip club, bar, brothel, brothel, bar club, bar club, and it just continues. It was wild, man. Like the shit that we were seeing down there, and it was like the same thing. Like the women come out and they try and seduce. And it's not even the men this time; it's the actual women that work at these places. They come out and they're trying to seduce men to come into their clubs, and it was just like something else. And it's like we saw so much in just 2 hours of walking. We finally stopped at a bar, and then there was, you know, it was just it was a fun but weird experience that I can't even get into too much detail about. Just like the stuff that we saw, we didn't do anything. We literally just had beer, had a couple sausages at the train station, and then walked around 2 hours, literally walked back, and then went to sleep in the front entrance of the airport because we couldn't even check in yet. But yeah, the red light districts in like certain areas are wild. But we did one too. We just like walked down the street just to see what it was like. And I noticed that like that was the only, go figure, dirty area of Tokyo. Do you remember that? How it's like the rest of Tokyo was very, very clean. And then as soon as you get to the red light district, it was just like
you
trash.
start seeing garbage
everywhere.
on the floor.
Yeah, which was weird. It like didn't really make much sense. And I'm just like, why is there so much trash in this area? And I'm like, oh, we're in the trashy area. It makes a lot of sense. But yeah, it was a fun, definitely a super fun experience.
Yeah.
The wedding,
and the rest of it was beautiful. Like,
yeah.
Aside from that, the red light district story, like there were so many beautiful moments that like it's hard. Like I have to go back to my list of like my journaling.
You were journaling during the time?
Yeah,
Nice.
like just noting stuff down in like notepad or like whatever.
Yeah.
Like go here, so I could just tell people when I came back, like, do this.
Yeah, because sometimes you do these trips and it's like you do so much so fast and you tend to forget like all the things that you did. Like even on my most recent trip, it's like, oh, like I'll talk to Mike and he'll be like, oh yeah, I remember when we went to this, and I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot we even did that. Right. So like when you do so much in such a short period of time, especially if you're a forgetful person, you'll tend to forget things.
That's me for sure. I have to write. There's so much going on up here sometimes.
Yeah. You got to make notes sometimes. But yeah, that's pretty much it. There was one more thing we wanted to try. I have no idea if this is gonna work. You guys want to try this? So
I absolutely want to see it.
You want to see it? Okay.
Let's see it.
So we had this idea. Basically, what we wanted to do was we wanted to go into AI. We're going to probably use Chatgpt for this one since it's open right in front of my face. And we're essentially going to try and get Chatgpt to write us a rap song and see if he can actually do it live right now. Okay, how should I even type this? Like, what should I type?
Maybe we should have 3 topics or 3 words or something to put into ChatGPT.
We're doing it Harry Mack style.
Oh no! Oh yeah, that's true.
Has Harry Mack done like a?
I don't know.
Maybe,
I don't know.
I wouldn't
no
be surprised
idea.
if he did, but
I have no idea.
Hey, we could be the first, man.
Right.
I just want to. That's a disclaimer. Like I've been on social media saying this, but like, if the machines ever take over, right?
Yeah.
I want to be on the right side of that battle. You know what I mean? So anything involving AI, I won't speak against.
So let's try this. So write us a rap song using.
Hello, ChatGPT lords. How are you today? Can you please help me with this?
I believe in you so much.
Write us a rap song using these topics, like.
Oh boy. Maybe incorporating this, and this. Oh God.
I don't know.
What would we even start with?
I don't know. Incorporating. Write us a rap song.
I just looked at the chair sitting across from me, so I think the first word should be camouflage.
Incorporating camouflage because it's a camouflage color.
Camouflage.
Beer.
Beer. Nice.
Okay. Tissue. I'm just using literally things right in front of us. A computer.
Right.
I feel this song's gonna be amazing.
Freemasonry.
Freemasonry?
Yeah.
Nice.
Freemasonry? Like that.
Make it interesting.
Okay, let's try this and see what happens. Well, I'll just say this is not computable. Oh, dude, it's actually doing it.
Oh, man.
Oh, my God. Dude.
I can't believe I'm seeing this, man.
Dude, there's like a whole. I did not expect this.
I feel like when we start reading it,
It's not gonna
like
make
it
sense.
looks awesome just the way it's going. But I think we start reading it, it might be a little bit nonsensical.
Yeah, the
Can
flow
you
is not
see
going to
all
make
that
sense.
on
but
Yeah, I feel like it doesn't
Okay.
have the same skill that.
we'll try. We can try. We can try.
Oh,
And if
this
it's
is
not
very
going
exciting.
well, then we
There
just.
you go.
All right.
You're good to
Might
do
need
this
a
without
beat-
like
a
I was
beat
just
or
gonna say a
something? Yeah.
beat. I was just gonna
All right.
say
You know,
that.
it's all good. It's all good.
You can find you got to be able to find something
have no
royalty
idea.
free.
I don't trust royalty free when you search on YouTube. Sometimes they say
But-
royalty free, but they're not actually.
We can pull it up from the
royalty-free.
YouTube studio though.
Maybe I don't know.
I don't know. It might probably help him a lot. I think you're good.
I think
Maybe
you
just
can.
try something.
Just try it. Let's see what
I
happens.
know it's easy for me to say, hey, just try it, but
There's a lot of lyrics on there. Like
Yeah,
what
we'll
the
see how
hell?
far we
I'll
get.
give
Maybe
it, like-
we'll get to the chorus, the first verse, and we'll do the chorus
Yeah.
and see how we're feeling after that.
This is
we really
ridiculous.
appreciate you doing
Oh,
this.
of course, man. I'm about it, man. I'm telling you, in 10 years from now, I'm gonna look back on this moment and be like, yeah, that's why they fuck with me. The robots are like, yo, you know,
He was the first to rock with us.
yeah, you were willing to rap our bars like that.
Right?
Come on now.
Oh my god. This is
All
so
right.
ridiculous.
Yo, with Scotty IV, I'm back in the game. Spinning rhymes so tight, they never be the same. I'm rocking camo, blending in with the scene. I'm a rap chameleon, flowing smooth and clean. Sipping on beer, I'm feeling so sublime. Unwinding after work is my favorite pastime. But I'm not just a drinker or a lyrical machine. Composing rhymes on my computer screen. I'm repping Freemasonry, that ancient craft. Seeking knowledge and wisdom, I'm never letting it pass. Building my empire, brick by brick. In this rap game, I'm slick with lyrical tricks. Camouflage blending in the street. Beer in my hand, feeling so complete. Tissue for the haters, they can't handle my flow. Computers on fire, I'm letting it all go. Freemasonry, the foundation of my rhyme. Scotty IV, breaking barriers one at a time.
Wow.
Wow.
Oh man.
That
was wild.
I got it. Can you
that was
like
crazy.
copy and paste this?
I'll save it. You
Or you
want
could-
it?
yeah,
Want to
save
save
it
it
on
for you
the-
later
it's on
on?
the
So I can read back
upcoming
what I when this all works out, there's gonna be some like conspiracy video like rapper Scotty IV is in the Illuminati and they're gonna play this clip with no context.
Oh my god, that was crazy. It actually
Wow.
wasn't like so bad.
No.
though.
No,
it
it
actually
wasn't.
The fact that I never read it before, so
Yeah.
obviously I didn't know what the flow it was
Yeah,
using
yeah,
was.
exactly.
But the fact that most of that I feel like flowed is kind of crazy to
But
me.
the
Yeah.
but the fact that like it actually kind of made some sense,
Right.
right?
It made
Like
a lot of sense. I didn't
yeah.
see anything that didn't make sense.
Right,
no,
right.
like the lyrics were like, "Yo, I'm repping Freemasonry, the ancient craft." Is what I don't know. What
I'll
that's
read
supposed
verse
to
2.
mean,
Hold on. I'm camouflage, can't spot me in the crowd. Stealthy with my words, I'm rising above the cloud. Got the tissue handy for the tears that they shed. When they hear me flow, they know they've been misled. God damn.
Whoa.
I'm a computer wizard, code running through my veins, unlocking new levels, breaking musical chains. From the keyboard to the mic, I'm in control, crafting rhymes that touch your soul, heart and soul.
Wow.
Freemasonry is the foundation, the secrets untold, illuminating the minds with lyrics that unfold. The power of unity, we're stronger as one, rising to the top, we can't be undone. Come on, man.
This is crazy.
This is crazy.
That is pretty freaking.
That is insane.
Like the fact that just did that in literally like not even 10 seconds is.
I'm gonna be doing loss prevention forever.
Yo, just
That was so
imagine.
cool.
Just imagine like all future music is like not even gonna be actual real people. Like they're just gonna generate like they're gonna bring Tupac back. From the dead,
They already
right?
started doing
like holograms and stuff like that.
the holograms,
Yeah,
but,
that's been
but
around
even
for a while.
the AI songs, like
Mhm.
they take like the vocal sample for the weekend or whatever and like make it rap
Mhm.
lyrics in the voice of the weekend. So if they
Yeah.
could do, if the lyrics can be made by AI and the voice can be generated by AI, they can just do it all.
Dude, imagine that. You
Damn.
could literally make a rap
With a prompt.
song. You can make a rap song in 5 minutes. And even if it doesn't come out like perfect the first time, just like input your voice, see what comes out good, and then just edit out the parts that you need to replace. Right? Like that's whack.
I think prompting is going to be the next thing. Like the
Mhm.
next big thing is prompting. Like in universities. You can get a degree in prompting. Like, how good are you at creating a syntax of words or whatever, a string of words that achieves a desired result? Like, that'll be a project. Like, give this a prompt to make it do this. And like, the better you are at prompting or understanding how it works, the better, higher your grade. I think it's gonna go that way.
This is a huge breakthrough, AI in general.
Absolutely.
Like I feel like, you know, there's the internet was one breakthrough, and that's been 30 years since that, 20 years since that or something. And now AI is the next one that, you know, is going to change everything.
Right. And we don't realize how much right now. Same way with the internet, we didn't realize, like, it was like a new quirky funny things what the kids do type thing. But now look where we're at. But now you're onto something. That's why I'm professing and declaring my allegiance, man, to the machines from now. Because watch. Yeah.
And on that note, I would just like to let you all know that this entire podcast has been created by AI. We are not actually here. That's why we've been glitching the entire time. No, I'm just being funny. But yeah, this was a really good time. I think you just reached our longest podcast ever. So congratulations. 2 hours and 24 minutes so far.
Thank you very much, sir.
Which is pretty intense. Thank you a lot for coming out and talking to us. And
I love this episode.
Yeah. Feel free to come on anytime, and I'm sure there's lots more stuff we could probably discuss in the future.
Sure.
You know, whatever you want to talk about. And thank you all at home for watching this video, whether it is or watching or listening, depending if you're listening on Spotify, Amazon, whatever it might be. I'm going to leave the links for everybody down below. So go and subscribe or follow or whatever you want to do. Shout out your next thing on what you're going to be posting next, I guess.
Yeah, go Scotty 4 Eyes, SCOTTY number 4 EYES on all the platforms. Just released a song called 213, which is the California area code, with Rye 783. A lot of numbers there. But Rye is an amazing artist. We got another single coming called Ozzy. I'm sure by the time this is out, it may or just about to be out or will be out. We'll figure that out. But make sure to, hit me on the platforms, stream all the music, live your montage.
Nice.
More Definitely. Importantly than anything else. If you take one thing from this whole podcast, live your montage.
I could see that being your future, like, merch. Your merch, sorry, not merge. Your merch shirt. Just live your montage. Yeah. Be the montage.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. The possibilities endless. So.
Exactly. Yeah. So thanks a lot for watching. Don't forget to smash that like button. Subscribe if you're new. Turn those notifications on. And we will see you guys in the next one. Thanks a lot.
Okay. I love you. Bye-bye.